in the race in the National League East. The Pittsburgh Pirates have won 3 straight, including 7-5 last night over the Mets, who today have their ace on the hill as Dwight Gooden goes after his 22nd win of the year. A win that could bring the Mets back to within a game of the Cardinals, who today take on the Montreal Expos at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. For Whitey Herzog, he'll have John Tudor on the hill, who has won only 18 of his last 19 decisions. But up first, NBC Sports presents Major League Baseball. An inside look at baseball and a preview of today's game of the week. Brought to you by Light Beer from Miller, everything you've always wanted in a beer and less. And by Goodyear, makers of the great performing all-season radio Vector. You are looking at Shea Stadium in the New York borough of Queens, and the Dr. Dwight Gooden is in. Hello, everyone. I'm Bill McAtee. And no matter where you are today, you'll get a chance to see one of the top 2 pitchers in baseball right now, either Dwight Gooden or John Tudor. They played late last night here until after midnight. It was a game decided by one of those quirky bounces that so often determines pennant races. So to bring us up to date on action last night, here's Len Berman.
Well, Bill, pennant fever had struck Mets fans last night, but it cooled in the 7th inning. The Pirates' R.J. Reynolds lifted his fly ball that George Foster couldn't handle. The last-place Pirates took a 5-2 lead. Now tied 5-5 in the 11th. Here's that ground ball from R.J. Reynolds. Hernandez couldn't handle it. The Pirates win at 7-5, and St. Louis beat Montreal, so the Cards lead by 2 games today. In the National League West, there's now a race on. The Reds' Max Venable. The winning hit off Nolan Ryan. The Reds won their 6th straight 5-2, and the Dodgers lost their 3rd straight. Their lead's been cut to just 4.5 games. In the American League East, the Blue Jays are flying away with it. Garth Orge's 2-run single in the 2nd had Toronto off and running. They went on to beat Milwaukee 7-5. And while the Yankees were continuing their monumental collapse, losing their 8th straight, the Blue Jays' magic number for their first title was reduced to just 10. The tightest race in the American League West in Kansas City. Steve Balboni crashed a first-inning grand slam homer. It came off the Twins' Bert Blyleven. It powered the Royals to a 5-1 win, snapping their 4-game losing streak. While in Anaheim, score tied with Cleveland, 5-5. Rod Carew in the 7th inning. He delivers a base hit to center field. Brett Butler's throw. Here comes Bob Boone. He collides with Cleveland's Jerry Willard, and that's the winning run. On the replay, you will see Jerry Willard run over by Boone, and Willard, because of this play, is charged with an error. The Angels beat Cleveland 7-5. So California and Kansas City are now tied for first place. Those are the pennant races. Back to you at Shea, Bill.
All right, Lenny, here's another look at those standings. The Cardinals increased their lead to 2 games now over the Mets, and out west it'll be hard not to name Pete Rose Manager of the Year. Look at the Reds. Suddenly they're 4.5 games back. They have 3 games left against the Dodgers. That'll close out the season. California and Kansas City, both winners, so they stay locked in first place in the West. The Yankees lost, Toronto won, so the Yankees are now 6.5 games back, and essentially the people in New York here have written them off. Coming up next, the artistry of Gooden and Tudor will return. Dwight Gooden, the young phenom who has not given up an earned run in his last 31 consecutive innings. He leads the league in strikeouts now with 247, and he currently has the lowest ERA in baseball. John Tudor, of course, had the slow start, but he has managed to turn it around and won 18 of his last 19 decisions. Tudor currently leads the league in shutouts with 9. Together, they have a record of 33-2 since May 30th. They'll be coming up shortly on the NBC Game of the Week. John Tudor or Dwight Gooden. Of course, Tudor a big factor for the Cardinals, and another factor has to be Vince Coleman. Last night, he had stolen base number 101. Vince is with Joe Garagiola at Busch Stadium. Gentlemen.
Bill, I'm seated next to Vince Coleman, and one of the few times we'll probably see him just in one spot for any length of time. As everybody knows, great base stealer. Vince, first of all, do you know what the feeling is? Can you comprehend the feeling of being in a pennant race?
Not really. Everyone say you should be nervous, but, you know, I'm just relaxed and glad to be here in the major leagues and taking each day as it comes.
Now, for those of us watching you, stealing 100 bases was inevitable. But to you, was it a special feeling?
Oh, yes. Chills went through my body once I accomplished that defeat, and to know the fact that there was only 4 guys that have done it in the major leagues, and that makes it even more overwhelming.
Do you have any number in your mind as to what you'd like to steal for a season?
I don't go out and set any numbers. I just let my ability dictate what's going to happen. I feel as if we was in 4th or 5th place, I would take more chances. But now that we're in the pennant race down the drive, we're going to sit back and be a little bit more conservative and let Willie and her and Clark drive me in.
Now, when you get on base today, can we look for you to take off?
Well, that's what got me here this for, so as well, I'm on first base. You can be expecting me to run.
Okay, Vince Coleman, and we can expect him to run, Bill. We'll watch for it.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe. You know, neither the Mets nor the Cardinals have denied doing a little bit of scoreboard watching, and to make that process a bit easier for those of you at home, in addition to our updates, every inning we will recap the half-inning batter by batter so you can follow both games. Now, the other story in baseball, the darker story, the drug trial in Pittsburgh, and there has been a new development, a guilty verdict in the trial of Curtis Strong. Here's James Polk.
Throughout the long courtroom battle, defense lawyers for Curtis Strong tried to put baseball on trial. The prosecution called Strong a traveling salesman for cocaine, but the defense argued the baseball players were trying to make Strong a scapegoat to save their rich salaries. It took the jury 2 days to reach a verdict, guilty on 11 of the 14 counts of selling cocaine to players. The maximum penalty, 15 years on each count. The judge told the jury younger baseball fans may now see their idols with feet of clay, but should also see the evils and dangers of drugs, a theme the prosecution echoed.
And I hope that the verdict and the facts in this case send a message to the youth of this country, especially about the dangers of cocaine.
Strong, once a clubhouse cook for the Philadelphia Phillies, will be sentenced 1 month from today. He was jailed without bail, led away from the court in chains. Defense lawyer Adam Renfro promised an appeal.
It's not over till it's over.
The guilty verdict included 1 drug sale inside the Pittsburgh Pirates clubhouse and other cocaine sales to Dave Parker of the Cincinnati Reds, Enos Cabell of the Los Angeles Dodgers, and Lonnie Smith of the Kansas City Royals, who also made a drug buy for his former St. Louis teammate Keith Hernandez, now with the New York Mets. Among the prosecution's final words to the jury at the close of the 3-week trial, the players have disgraced themselves and their profession, and that may well be the final verdict for the public. James Polk, NBC News, Pittsburgh.
An element of one of baseball's darker chapters coming to a close. When we return to New York, we'll take a look at baseball's hired guns, the new breed. We'll be back in a moment. If you have been following the Cardinals of late, you know how much Cesar Cedeno has meant to St. Louis since coming over from Cincinnati. He is an example of the hired gun, a player brought over to help win a few games down the stretch. Here again is Len Berman.
It's that time of year again when some of your baseball cards get shot full of holes. It is open season for the hired guns of baseball. Those well-known veterans who pack their saddlebags and ride off into the sunset to join the pennant races. Cesar Cedeno heads the list of 1985 late-season additions. But it started long ago. Shoeless Joe Jackson of the infamous Black Sox joined Chicago in the 1915 stretch drive. In 1949, the Yankees purchased Johnny Mize from the Giants for $40,000. In 1956, they paid the A's $50 grand for Enos Slaughter. The next year, Sal Magley from the Dodgers for just $25,000.
This year seems to be a banner year for hired guns. Every team that had a shot at winning its division picked up some late-season help. And just about every hired gun fired off some shots.
The Blue Jays went for hitting. Al Oliver from the Dodgers. And Cliff Johnson came home to roost from Texas.
When his name popped up, we wanted to grab him right away because we feel that he might be the extra little thing that can help us win this thing.
Normally, teams go for pitching. That's why the Yankees went for Joe Niekro. They may have been slow on the draw. Don Sutton is now a double-barreled hired gun. He's been through this before. He helped clinch the pennant for the Milwaukee Brewers on the last day of the 1982 season. And now he hopes to fire another bullseye for the California Angels.
I think that there are similarities in the two ball clubs, and I think that there are probably obviously similarities in the time of the year and the fact that it is a pretty good pennant race. But heck, I'm at home.
The Angels also participated in the Pirates fire sale. 2 pitchers and George Hendrick took the stagecoach west, while Bill Madlock rode shotgun to the Dodgers. His gun has been smoking. The Mets went for utility men, Tom Paciorek and Larry Boa. But the biggest gun of all has been Cesar Cedeno.
Here's the pitch. Swing and a grand slam home run for Cesar. Way out of here.
When Jack Clark got injured, the Cardinals plucked Cedeno from the Reds.
Without him, I don't think we'd be presently where we're at all. I mean, I think he's the guy that gave us the lift that we needed.
My first time up, even on the first swing that I took, I hit a home runs, and I mean, the crowd went wild. And that was the first time in my 16-year Major League career that I had an ovation when somebody asked me to come out of the dugout. And believe me, I had the chill all over.
So how does it feel to be a hired gun where they call you up and say, all right, pack up your holster and go to St. Louis?
It was a plus. There I was in Cincinnati, not playing at all, and all of a sudden, you know, I feel that I was in big time. I mean, I have a chance to prove myself all over.
And so for Cedeno and the other hired guns of '85, it may be their last ride to glory as the sun sets on pennant race '85. Len Berman reporting.
Thank you, Lenny. Cedeno, of course, a key hit last night. He had a triple to help break up the 3-3 tie. He also mentioned the Pittsburgh Pirates. They have been much like a bank during the Depression. A lot of withdrawals, very few deposits, but the young guys have been hot. They've won 3 straight. They'll provide the opposition today for the New York Mets. The other game, St. Louis and Montreal. Stay with us. Baseball's coming up next on NBC.
He was known to the world as Harry Brackeen, but to his teammates, he was the Cat. He pitched for the Cardinals in 1940, and then from 1943 through 1952. Then it became the era of Bob Gibson, the incredible 1968, when he had an earned run average of 1. And now, in 1985, the Cardinals look to a left-hander named John Tudor in pursuit of his 20th victory.
NBC Sports presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today from Busch Memorial Stadium, it's the Montreal Expos versus the St. Louis Cardinals. The Game of the Week is brought to you by light beer from Miller. Everything you've always wanted in a beer, and less. By Ford, who invites you to drive the new Ford Escort. Have you driven a Ford lately? By NCR, who bring you a better personal computer. And by Manville, 21,000 people with one goal, to be America's very best supplier.
A beautiful summer's day in St. Louis, Missouri, and welcome to Busch Stadium with the Montreal Expos and right-hander Bill Gullickson going against John Tudor, looking for his 20th, and the St. Louis Cardinals. Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, along with Joe Garagiola. Montreal doesn't have very much respect, although they lost last night. They've beaten the Cardinals 9 out of 13 times, so Tudor has himself a mountain to climb.
He does have the mountain, but, you know, as I hear the name Tudor, Vin, I have to think that you can point many fingers at a lot of players on the Cardinals and as to why they are where they are. But Tudor, what a pleasant surprise he has been. It always seems to be one or two guys. Tudor and Cedeno. Cedeno has been such a big help coming down the stretch as far as winning the pennant and going into a World Series.
To give you an idea, Cedeno is 26 for 56 with 16 runs batted in, a slugging percentage of almost 800 since he put on a St. Louis Cardinal uniform. But don't forget, the Expos, along with the Dodgers, are the only two teams to give the Cardinals a bad time this year. We'll also be covering the New York Mets at Shea Stadium while they're battling the Pittsburgh Pirates, and of course losing last night. They trailed by 2.
And Dwight Gooden is pitching.
Well, we'll keep an eye on it for you, so stay right with us. Starting lineups all coming up right after this. For the Montreal Expos, leading off, their answer to the Cardinals' speed is left fielder Tim Raines with his 60 stolen bases. In the number 2 slot, a man who walks a lot, who also strikes out a lot because he takes a lot of pitches to afford Raines the opportunity. Second baseman Vance Law. In right field at 31, no knee problem, so he can play in a day game after a night game, Andre Dawson. At shortstop, on an RBI pace that might see him catch Ernie Banks' mark in 1960, Hubie Brooks. At third base, a long ball hitting threat at all times, Tim Wallach. At first base, talking about the long ball, a 24-year-old out of Caracas, Venezuela, who has a reputation of hitting tape measures. His name is Andre Galarraga, and they call him Radio Gaga. The center fielder, Mitch Webster, another home run threat. Behind the plate, with Mike Fitzgerald having had knee surgery, Sal Butera. And the pitcher, looking for his 14th win, Bill Gullickson.
Here's the defense, and take a look at that outfield. Actually, 3 center fielders when they were in the minor leagues all played center field. Coleman, McGee, and Van Slyke, and they can cut that ball off in the gap, keep the double play in order. And keep in mind, Cedeno's not in the lineup. We've talked about him. He's on the bench. He has a puffy knee, but he can hit. Pendleton, Ozzie Smith, what can we say about him? At shortstop, Hers is second baseman. Jack Clark is in the at first base. Porter behind the plate, and John Tudor is the pitcher. Tudor has great control. He likes to pitch inside, not afraid to come inside. A great changeup. I'd say his fastball is his best pitch. Combined with that changeup really makes him effective.
And as you can see, he's in quest of his 20th win since Joaquin Andujar has already won 20. This Cardinal team will be the first National League team since 1969 Cubs to have 2 20-game winners, Bill Hands and Ferguson Jenkins, and also that year Bill Singer and Claude Osteen of the Dodgers. Ball 1 to Tim Raines, and we're underway. Raines hitting .314, 60 stolen bases. And, of course, if he gets aboard, he would try to give the Cardinals a taste of their own medicine. 2-0 the count. We would also like to remind you that as you watch the Cardinal Expo game, we will give you batter by batter every half inning of what transpires at Shea Stadium in New York involving the New York Mets, who are hosting the Pittsburgh Pirates. And Dwight Gooden will be on the mound. 2-1 the count to Tim Raines. Raines recently against the Pirates was the front man on a double steal with Andre Dawson and stole home. He's only been caught 9 times. 3-1. Raines has hit safely in 24 of 26, and John Tudor battling him right now. Pendleton shortens up near the bag at third. And there's a base hit into left field. So Tim Raines has hit now in 25 of 27, and perhaps will try to put a little heat on Tudor.
Batting second, number 2.
Tudor has a pretty good move. He can neutralize the base runners, but you do have a combination up there, and Vance Law really taking a good look to see if there is a play on. He does take a lot of strikes to try to help the base runner. Bob Rogers doesn't particularly like to play hit and run, especially against a left-hander with a good move, but we'll have to wait and see.
Well, this will be something now. Tim Raines challenging the Cardinals, and Tudor really keeping an eye on him. And that's ball 1. Raines, remember, is the Major League's all-time leading stolen base percentage man. Sometime early next year, Tim will become the third youngest to steal 400. Ricky Henderson, Ty Cobb, and then Raines. He has 380 stolen bases right now and held on by Jack Clark. A great percentage, and we'll see if he can give the Cardinals a taste of the medicine. There he goes. The pitch is high. Florida's throw is late. So Tim Raines shows what it's like to be at the other end and steals a base against the Cardinals.
Porter had a good ball to handle, seemed to handle it cleanly, although got some help. Raines did from Law wiggling the bat, but it wasn't even close. He's coming up on this slide. Straight steal, head is down, not even worried about what the hitter's going to do, knowing that Law, as usual, will take the pitch to give him a chance.
2 balls, no strikes. Now back. They want Vance Law to take some strikes, but they also want him to be more aggressive. He has 90 strikeouts and 78 walks. So, in a sense, that's almost 170 at-bats where he hasn't swung the bat. And if you add the 2 times he's hit, that's exactly 180. But Vance is the best that Buck Rogers has to be in the number 2 slot. Ideally, he'd like a left-hand hitter up there. 2-1.
That's one of those baseball situations, Vin, like, don't give him a good ball to hit, but don't walk him, you know. Be sure to give that base runner a chance to steal a base, so take a pitch, but be more aggressive. How are you going to do that?
Yeah, right. Well, there's the footnote. Leading his team in strikeouts. Trying desperately to make contact to at least get Raines over to third. So this is a big pitch for John Tudor. Tudor's high in strikeouts, 9, and he's done that twice.
This will be the only swing. I would venture to say that he'll take his natural swing. He's been trying to hit the ball to the right side to pick up a base with an out.
2-2. Fouled away. Montreal has been giving the Cardinals a bad time, beating them 9 out of 13.
Even with 2 strikes, he took his shot to the right side. Now, we're in the first inning, and usually from the first to the 6th inning, the manager will just say, hey, take your normal swing after you've tried twice. You might note that Vance Law, Charlie Lau theory, he's on that toe, front foot, weight back. Watch it come up.
He's hitting 260. Big pitch for John Tudor, trying to keep Raines anchored at second. And a check swing ground ball to third, and Pendleton throws him out, and Raines must hold at second base. So Law, thoroughly tied up, can't advance his man, and with 1 out, Andre Dawson will be the batter.
Batting third, number 10,
Terry Pendleton,
right fielder,
handling that check swing. Andre Dawson is hitting only 248. He's been in a terrible slump. He's got the 15, as you can see. His knees have been drained twice, although he is not in any pain, and it's interesting that he can come back and play a day game following a night game, but he was rested 3 days in Montreal, and there sums up his troubles.
He's been hitting the Cardinals fairly well. In fact, Whitey had a joke about it before the game. He was saying, I think my catchers are trying to find out if I'm right about how to pitch to him, because he's been hitting us. We're not pitching him right. Comes in with the slump, and then he said he smoked one last night.
Yeah, he had a couple of good swings in last night. That's a strike on the outside corner. Those who follow Montreal every day say one of the things you have to do with Andre Dawson is look at his left knee. And sometimes that left knee will kind of buckle. And when it buckles, he kind of falls away from the plate and consequently doesn't have a good swing. Last night, it seemed to hold up pretty well. Fouled away off to the right. So Tudor coming inside, and of course that's his trademark. One thing, Herzog made an interesting observation. He said, I like left-handers who grew up in Fenway Park. And that tells you a lot. A left-hander who learns to pitch in Fenway has learned to pitch.
And that was the credential of Tudor, and he had a winning record at Pittsburgh. He said now he's got a good shortstop, great outfield defense. He said that's a lot of ingredients to make a winning pitcher. Throw strikes, don't walk anybody, and a good defense.
And one other thing, a big ballpark. 1 and 2. Although it is 330 down the lines, it really falls away here. It is 383 up the alleys, and deepest center 414. So it's an airport.
Got some guys, though, if it stays in the ballpark, can run it down.
So Tudor went 2-2 on Van Sloy and got him, comes back 1-2 on Andre Dawson. And he pops it up, didn't get around on it. Andy Van Slyke is there. So it shows you why Tudor is on his way to winning 20. He gives up a base hit and a stolen base. He goes head-to-head with the number 2 hitter and gets him without the runner advancing. Then ties up the number 3 hitter. And now he's looking at perhaps his biggest problem, Hubie Brooks.
Well, let's see if the knee buckles.
See it start to turn out there and then come back?
I'll tell you the truth, I didn't see anything different.
Just a tad. It just looks like, especially if you've been told to look for it, you see it just go a little more towards third. Instead of rotating, it kind of buckles. And here's Brooks. And he promptly hits it into right field. Then Slyke with a good arm. Raines coming to the plate. He scores. Down to second goes Hubie Brooks.
Van Slyke is a bit disappointed. Looked like he had a good chance. He had that ball when Raines was 2 steps from third base. The throw was not only off to the side. Now Raines is about to third base here. It's not only to the side, but it's high. And Raines, Porter gets the ball on the third base side. He gets Raines because he still had 4 steps to go. Now, Porter's got the ball, but he has to come back, and it's too late. It was not a good throw. 2 reasons. The other one being that it allowed Hubie Brooks to go to second base, where he's in scoring position.
Well, what a year Hubie Brooks is having, as the batter is Tim Wallach. Hubie Brooks at second base now has 94 runs batted in. The most RBIs for a shortstop since Ernie Banks had 117 back in 1960. That's in the National League, of course. 1-1. You get into deep water when you start talking about Robin Yount and Cal Ripken.
And that was a pretty good piece of hitting. He didn't try to pull the ball. He figured Tudor was going to try to pitch him outside. He did have first base open. Brooks just punched it to the opposite field.
So it is 1-0 Montreal here in the first inning. And, of course, that is posted up on the scoreboard. You can bet immediately at Shea Stadium in New York. And with Dr. Gooden going, we will give you every report all day long on exactly what's transpiring at Shea Stadium in New York. Tim Wallach has a lot of stock, 18 home runs. You have to be careful with him, 72 RBIs. Batting average is a little disappointing, only .258. And fists one in the air to first base to Jack Clark. He was properly jammed, and that's it. However, the Expos, who have beaten the Cardinals 9 out of 13, get a run. And at the end of half an inning, 1-0 Montreal. Here's the Cardinal lineup. Vince Coleman with his 101 stolen bases leading off. Willie McGee, the league's #1 hitter, 359 in center. Tommy Herr with 100 RBIs hitting third. Pretty impressive, huh? And Jack Clark in the cleanup spot at first. Andy Van Slyke in right. Terry Pendleton at third. Darrell Porter behind the plate. Ozzie Smith at short. And John Tudor on the mound.
Defensively, Raines, Webster, and Dawson in the outfield. Wallach, for the 3rd straight season, he leads the National League third baseman in total chances. The 2nd straight year leads third baseman in assists. Brooks, Law, and Galarraga. We'll take a look at that big guy. Behind the plate, Sal Buchera, and Phil Gullickson is the pitcher. Gullickson, fastball, curve. He'll cut his fastball and doesn't rely that much on a curve, although he can throw it for strikes when he has to.
Well, he'll have to throw some strikes because he certainly doesn't want to walk Coleman to start off the day. Vince with 101 stolen bases, and he's up there with the big names in base stealing. Lou Brock and Maury Wills, and of course Ricky Henderson has done it 3 times, and there's a strike, 0-1.
And Wallach is really in tight at third base trying to take the bunt away from him. He is, look how close he is.
A report out of Shea Stadium, the Pirates loaded the bases with one out. Joe Orsulak scored on Mike Brown's ground out to second base, so the Pirates got a run in the first inning. Coleman a foul, and Wallach ought to be able to handle it. Now to look at exactly what's transpired, let's go to Len Berman at Shea Stadium in New York.
All right, Vin, here's that run you mentioned. Bases loaded off Gooden. Mike Brown, ground ball to Hernandez. Gooden covers. Joe Orsulak scores, breaking Gooden's 31 in the third inning scoreless streak. So it's now 1-0 Pittsburgh as they play the bottom of the first inning. Back to St. Louis.
We have one away, and here's the league's leading hitter, Willie McGee. McGee hitting .359, made a dazzling play last night for the final out of the game to rob Tim Raines of an extra base hit. Banged up, looked like he got a little hip pointer when he hit the ground, but he's right back on the lineup today. Bill Gullickson was the second player taken in the '77 draft by Montreal. He never seems to have quite broken through to become a dominant pitcher. His best year, he won 17 in 1983. Gullickson might have exceeded the 17 victories this year, except he made only one start in the month of June because of a full groin. He can be very tough. And, of course, his skipper, and along with everybody else, knows when he throws strikes. In 20 of his 26 starts, he's walked 2 or less. Ground foul. Gullickson, they tell me, doesn't throw as hard as he used to. And his one tendency, Joey, is they call him a dart thrower. He's trying to make the perfect pitches too often.
Paint the black is dart thrower, same thing. He's got to just throw strikes with the good stuff. The cut fastball has made a difference, though, in his pitching.
1 and 2. 2 balls and 2 strikes to count.
When we talk about a cut fastball, sometimes it'll look like a slider. It's a ball that'll break, for example, to a left-hand batter, break in on the handles and try to jam him with it.
In fact, he used to have a pitch called a slurve, which was half curve and half slider, but he got rid of it. A chopper to first, and Galarraga did not get there. McGee legs it out. Willie McGee, with over 20% of his base hits of the infield variety, turns it into a single.
Galarraga learned an important lesson here. You can talk about speed, but he learned just how fast Willie McGee is. I asked Whitey Herzog about playing on grass or artificial surface. He said, if you can play anywhere. On the moon, you can play. He said, we can run anywhere. He said, we're 28 and 14 on grass. He said, the only place we can't run is in Atlanta, and that's because of mud. And they found out that Ozzie Smith walks on water, so we beat him anyhow.
Here's Tommy Herr and Willie McGee drawing a throw. McGee has stolen 49 bases. You know, actually, the Cardinals have scored more runs on grass than they have on turf.
Their record is better on grass. Everybody's making a big deal about the remaining games. Whitey says, no way. We can play anywhere, run anywhere.
Another point for the people to think about. The Cardinals have 3 road games left, that's all, in Montreal. And they've lost 5 of the 6 played in Montreal this year. Willie McGee, he had only 3 home runs before the All-Star break, and he's hit 7 since, so he's grown up in a lot of areas. 1-0. Now, Gullickson has a very slow movement to the plate. He is an ideal pitcher for the Cardinals to take advantage of, and he is one of those pitchers, so Buck Rogers says, if you try to shorten him up, hurry him up, you take away, so you can't do it. He just has to keep him off. So let's see if McGee tries to steal his 50th with a left-hand hitter.
I think it'll be dictated by how Whitey feels about her.
That's a strike. Interesting and nice note the other night when Vince Coleman stole his 100th base. Tommy Herr came up a few moments later and knocked in his 100th RBI, and they were kind of hoping that they'd do it in the same inning, and it worked out. First man since George Kell to knock in 100 with less than 10 home runs. McGee at first, 1 out in the first inning, and Montreal leading 1-0. Bill Gullickson, 13-11, 1-1 with Montreal, 6-9 lifetime. Popped it up, and coming in will be Andre Galarraga. A report from Shea. Let's go to Lindbergh.
Number 22.
Well, Vin, bottom of the first now at Shea, and the Mets' Wally Backman slices it down the line. R.J. Reynolds for the Pirates can't get it. Mookie Wilson, who had committed the error in the top of the first, comes around and scores it. So it's now tied 1-1, still playing bottom one. Back to St. Louis.
The batter now is Jack Clark. Interesting to note about this Cardinal ball club. They lost Jack Clark on August the 23rd. They were a half a game behind the Mets when he went out, and everybody thought, well, they're going to really hit the skids. When he returned on September the 19th, the Cardinals were 2 games in front. The reason, of course, the incredible play of Cesar Cedeno. Clark, in returning to the lineup last night, had 2 walks and 2 base hits. Out with a bad rib cage. It took a long time to heal. In fact, Whitey Herzog admits that when it first happened, he thought deep down he might lose Clark for the remainder of the year. But Jack is back, and now he has Cedeno to complement him. So McGee evidently unable to get a jump over there.
Vin, I think it's more the other way, that Jack Clark hitting, that Whitey's going to say, hey, he can take 1 swing and give us 2 runs. And with if McGee does make it to second base, they can be a little more careful with Clark. I don't say he's playing more conservative, but let's see.
A difficult set, too, by Gullickson. You see where his hands are? In other words, he doesn't come to the belt buckle where you can see his elbows if you're the runner. His hands come together about at the breastbone, but maybe 6 inches in front of his body, and he's a very tough read.
The key most base runners use would be the shoulder, the left shoulder, see what that does. A lot of them key in on that. That's the first move.
And if you don't get a reading there, they usually check the right heel on the rubber. See where his hands are out in front of the body? There he goes. Ground ball, foul. So sooner or later, McGee had to go, and he got a pretty good jump. As we said, the combination here of a pitcher with a slow delivery to the plate and Sal Butera in place of Mike Fitzgerald, who had arthroscopic surgery and reported the doctors were amazed that Fitzgerald played as long as he did with such a severely injured knee.
Whitey, with Coleman and McGee especially, they have the green light. They can go at any time. There's no strategy that dictates it. Whitey has a don't run sign.
Boy, they're pinching up the left side with Wallach and Brooks. They're almost like bookends over there. McGee does not go, and there's a fly ball to center. Mitch Webster is there with the shades down, and he puts it away, so they leave McGee at first. And at the end of an inning, Montreal won and the Cardinals nothing. We're going to the second inning, and a good note on John Tudor. His last loss was against Fernando Valenzuela and the Dodgers, who are having more than their share of difficulties in San Francisco. In the second inning, Andre Galarraga, Mitch Webster, and Sal Butera. They tell me when this Venezuelan was playing down in Jacksonville, the writers down there had trouble pronouncing his name, Andre Galarraga, so they nicknamed him Radio Gaga. But we'll call him Andre Galarraga. Ball 1.
Galarraga's not that tough to say.
No.
Gargiola's tougher than that.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Household name.
Oh, at home.
In there. What a one. Andre Galarraga, he's a kid out of Venezuela, and Whitey Herzog will take a good look at him while watching John Tudor's quest for number 20. Buck Rogers at the other side, dreaming already about next year and how a healthy Mike Fitzgerald figures to be a much better player than the sore-kneed catcher who evidently reported to Montreal after the deal for Carter with the bad knee. Way out in front of
John Tudor has a great change of pace. We mentioned when we talked about him before the game, the fastball and the change of pace combined, well, that's like 4 pitches. He's not afraid to come inside, not afraid to throw that change at any time. And Galarraga has learned 2 valuable lessons already in the big leagues.
Here's Mitch Webster, the center fielder, and he hits it foul off first, out of play.
Been seeing that shot of Whitey Herzog. He's such a delight to sit with before the bench, as you will on the bench before the game. I was saying, Whitey, are you going to change anything at all coming down the stretch? He gave me a line I hadn't heard. He said, hey, man, they got me to the dance. I want to get to the prom.
There you go.
He's not changing anything. What got me to the dance is going to get me to the prom.
0-1 to count to Mitch Webster. And he lifts a fly ball to left field. Coleman backing over to his left. You know, you played at Rochester, and we'll talk about that league in a minute, but right now we're going to New York.
All right, Vin, over in this league, still the bottom of the first inning at Shea. Danny Heat base hit past Sid Bream, the former Dodger. Keith Hernandez scores. It's now 3-1 Mets, bottom of the first inning. Back to you, Vin and Joe.
With 2 down in the second inning, Sal Butera coming up. 1-0 in favor of Montreal. Butera finishing up along with Ned Yost, whom they just acquired because they lost Mike Fitzgerald. I was going to say, you played in Rochester.
Yeah.
And that's in the same league as Syracuse. Fouled away. I was thinking how times have changed. Mitch Webster 2 years ago won a home run hitting contest in Syracuse, right? The prize, he and his wife had an expense-free paid trip to Paris.
Wow.
So last year he won it again. Got a free trip to Rome and Athens. And you call that the minor leagues?
Better than being on a game show.
Wow.
What's in door number 4? A trip to Paris.
A lion. Ground ball hard to third, but Pendleton playing a steady third base gets him, and it's an easy inning for John Tudor as Montreal goes quietly 1-2-3. At the end of an inning and a half, the Expos won, the Cardinals nothing. The Expos with a run in the first inning. Tim Raines singled and stole second, took third as Vance Law grounded out, and came home on a single to right by Ubi Brooks. And the Cardinals now will have Andy Van Slyke, followed by Terry Templeton, and then Darrell Porter. Andy Van Slyke, outstanding athlete, excellent outfielder, and really starting to come alive with the bat. He has been giving way to Tito Landrum a lot against left-handers. But he's one of those kids they figure can't miss. So Gullickson leading 1-0, and into the second we go. Off speed. Gullickson has a shutout. He shut out Atlanta. He also had a 5-hitter to beat the Dodgers. 1 ball and no strikes. To left center field, but that's where Raines was playing him. So he was perfectly positioned. 1 out. And the batter will be Terry Pendleton.
Batting 6, number 9.
Hard to say whether the wind has much of an effect on a ball hit in this completely enclosed ballpark, but the flags tell us it is blowing from right to left. Pendleton, a switch hitter, hitting .235. He has 5 home runs, 61 runs batted in. He tore up a leg going after a foul ball when he tripped over the pitcher's mound in the bullpen, and that really set him back a while. Ball 1. Cincinnati, Houston, and of course you have to keep an eye on the Reds. They're 4.5 games back of the Dodgers, scoreless in the second inning. And no strikes. Terry Pendleton with Darrell Porter to follow. As usual, the Cardinals throwing a lot of switch hitters at you. Coleman and Herr. McGee and Pendleton and Ozzie Smith. The Yankees in Baltimore scoreless in the second. Boy, the Yankees have become yesterday's story, huh?
In a hurry.
Boy. Fly ball to left field. Rain started in, but now he's there. So it shows you not only the control of the pitcher, but the fact that the outfield has been deployed correctly. With Van Slyke, Raines played him in left center. With Pendleton, he played him in straightaway left, and he was in perfect spot.
You can see Gullickson, how much he depends on his own knowledge. He wants Porter to be played straight away, although Webster was playing in right center field. He has the youngster, and look at him sneaking back now, though. He's going right back to where Gullickson had moved him from.
Good, big, slow curveball for a strike.
Webster has moved right back into right center field. Gullickson had one into play straight away. He stood there and then he moved back. Look at the top of your screen. He's on way over the other side of second base.
Another slow curveball low. Remember, we told you he used to throw that slurve, half slider, half curve. He gave that up. Now it's a big overhand jug that he throws. 1 ball, 1 strike. The Mets, as we have told you, leading 3-1 in the first inning. They have a runner at third, 2 out. We'll keep you apprised. On deck, Ozzie Smith. Line drive, foul by about a foot or less.
Then you talk about Gullickson's slurve. You think there's going to be an epidemic of split-finger fastballs in San Francisco?
The ushers will take your ticket and give you the split finger.
I saw Bob Lurie walking around, the owner, saying, this is how you throw a split-finger fastball.
Roger Craig, the guru, is now the manager of the Giants, and Al Rosen, the general manager. And the split-fingered fastball will be as popular as the Boy Scout sign of 2-2. Full foul.
Now he's thrown 2 pitches that Porter's really been able to get around on, and with the count 2-2, he'll want to make it happen here. And if you're a batter, this will tell you pretty much the pattern for the rest of the day, what he's going to do.
A footnote, Rafael Santana has just doubled, scoring Gary Carter, and the Mets are leading the Pirates 4-1 in the first inning. He'll check at third. No swing, says Dick Stello. 3-2. Gullickson with 2 out. One thing, the Montreal pitchers cannot look to the bullpen for Jeff Reardon in this series. Reardon with 35 saves is out. A severely pulled groin muscle, walking around with a huge bag of ice strapped to his leg. All 4. So the 2-out pass to Porter. And that'll bring up Ozzie Smith. Porter, one of the few birds you don't have to worry about him flying. However, he does have 4 out of 5 stolen bases. Hold everything. Would you believe? We told you Santana doubled to make it 4-1. And we are checking now. Dwight Gooden has done what he said he would do. He hit a home run.
Oh, that'll make his year. That's what he really wanted. Forget the strikeouts, forget everything. If he's hit a home run, what a year.
Pitch in the dirt, ball 1. So it is still the first inning at Shea Stadium in New York, and the Mets are leading the Pirates 7-1. Needless to say, they have not informed the crowd here in St. Louis about that. 2-0.
I have to laugh at Porter's lead at first base. He's about 2 steps from the artificial surface. He's closer to the first base coaching box than he is the bag. Watch that lead he takes.
So when he has stolen 4 out of 5, the chances are it must have been a busted hit-and-run play.
He's not even near the artificial surface.
And Gullickson, who had retired the first 2, walks Porter and goes 3-0 to Ozzie Smith.
Time for Ozzie Smith to get on, get Tudor up there. If nothing else, get him out of the way and get the top of the lineup to lead it off.
And Tudor isn't that bad a hitter. He has 13 hits. But he has walked him.
pitching.
Oh, and how?
Bad pitching.
He has walked as many as 7 in a game. Ironically, he walked 7 against Cincinnati and won. And now, Larry Bernard, the pitching coach, going out to talk to him, the Bear, as they call him. So you have Porter and Smith. Let's take a look at that historic Gooden home run.
Vin, here it is. Dwight Gooden, and a long drive to left. R.J. Reynolds goes back. It's gone. A 3-run homer. 7-1 Mets. His first Major League homer. And get this, Vin and Joe, Gooden may switch hit next year. Back to St. Louis.
You can bet me they'll let him expose that right arm, hitting left-handed.
They're lucky they don't make him sleep in a deep freeze to protect him. He's not about to switch hit.
I would sure doubt it.
Bet me, too.
Here's John Tudor, and he wants to protect that left arm, so he's hitting left-handed, ball 1. Tudor has 13 hits. I always like to look at a pitcher's ratio of at-bats and strikeouts, and he's only about 25%. That makes him reasonably dangerous. 1-1.
Reasonably dangerous because if you put the ball in play, you certainly have a chance. Tudor usually does that, get the bat on the ball.
Right. So 2 on and 2 out. Rick Rhoden has been chased at Shea Stadium. Larry McWilliams has picked up for him. Well, they did a number on Rhoden, 2/3 of an inning. 7 runs, 5 hits, 2 walks, and a wild pitch. Tried to bring it with him. 1-2. Joe Jacobs once said he should have stood in bed. That had been Rhoden's philosophy today.
Larry Bernard went out and talked to Gullickson, and one of the things I'm sure he talked about is bear down on this guy and don't fool around with him. Right now, he wants it to happen, and I would say that big overhand curveball, that's the one you want to snap off right here and get that strikeout. There's no sense trying to set up any pitches. Got to go out and get him.
Give you an insight on him if we have a moment. Here's the 1-2 pitch. Fouled away. If you look at Bill Gullickson's glove, we can't see it. You'd have to have it on your hand. But on the fingers of the glove, he has the letters printed large, too. D-O-W-N. And that is to remind him when he's getting hard to get the ball down. So he writes himself a note on his glove. 1-2. Glove, Joe.
Yes, sir. And read it carefully and follow the instructions.
Mookie Wilson grounded to first unassisted, and the first inning is finally in the books at Shea Stadium, and the Mets are leading 7-1 at the end of an inning. Montreal leading the Cardinals 1-0, but 2-out bit of wildness now has put Gullickson on the spot. 2-2 to Tudor. All 3. And of course, that's a big break. It means Darryl Porter can be going.
And it looks like Butera doesn't think that Gullickson has the good breaking ball going for him because he has stayed with the fastball. And you got to believe right now he's going to challenge him again. This will be an interesting pitch coming up.
3-2 to Tudor with the runners going. Porter from second and Ozzie Smith from first. Fouled away.
Fastball once again.
Interesting, too. Remember when Tudor came up? Porter had walked, Smith had walked. The first pitch to Tudor was ball 1, and then he swung at the next pitch. If you were Whitey, would you have put handcuffs on him?
I think I might have, yes.
Yeah.
I think if he was an outstanding hitter, I'd turn him loose, but I'd handcuff him at least until the strike.
Yeah, I was surprised you let him swing 1-0. So 3-2, and the runner's going.
Come on, big guy.
Pop foul off third, and Wallach has a play. He's got it. So the Cardinals leave 2 birds out there on the limb, and at the end of 2, 1-0 Montreal. We'll be back after these messages from your local station.
Take a hard ride, Sunday night at 11.
We can tell you, too, that in the great indoors of Houston, the Astros leading the Reds 1-0 in the 3rd inning, trying to slow down Pete Rose Express. It's interesting, last Sunday, it was the 6th inning. The Dodgers were leading the Reds 6-1 with Fernando Valenzuela pitching, and the Dodgers were leading the Reds by 9.5. So you had to figure, well, this is a lock. That means the Reds are 10.5 back, and Rose will probably play kids, and the season is over. But the Reds scored 9 times in the 6th inning to beat Valenzuela and the Dodgers, and here they are today, a week later, 4.5 back. You talk about a situation turning in a hurry.
We got a race.
Wow. Here's Bill Gullickson. High chopper up along third. Pendleton will let it hit, and it's going to cost him. It's a base hit, and Pendleton kind of outsmarting himself, hoping the ball would kick foul. Gullickson, an infield single.
We've had 2 artificial surface hits. Willie McGee beating it out, and now this one. Pendleton looks like he's going to get it and let it roll foul, and Boops hits the seam. You can see it got a piece of that dirt and over his head, and it's a base hit.
Gullickson was running straight down the line. He had no thought about doing anything else except reaching first, and it's a base hit. And the batter now will be Tim Raines, who singled in the 1st inning. He's been a very hot hitter.
On defense, you always look for the bright spot, and you say to yourself, well, Gullickson's on. He'll clog the bases for Raines. He'll be in the way.
Raines has hit in 25 of 27, and he's going to leg it to first, and he is going to make it. He's safely aboard. Indecision around the bag.
Oh, save that and show it to the youngsters who want to know how you push a bunt for a base hit. He literally used Tudor as a screen. Tudor didn't know if he was going to break to the bag or break for the ball, and Raines pushes it right between them. Now watch what happens here. Tudor undecided. Now it's a screen. Clark has the ball. Tudor's in his way, and it's a base hit. Just absolutely perfect. Watch what happens here. Clark gets the ball. Tudor gets in his way, so Clark can't tag him. In fact, Clark ended up tagging Tudor, but that doesn't count.
Pirates in the 2nd inning went out. They had a base hit, but nothing else to show for it. So at the end of an inning and a half, it remains 7-1 in favor of the Mets. And now here's Vance Law. Ball 1. The Cardinals pull up the corners. They're looking bunt from Law. Both Pendleton and Clark were well up. And we'll watch Pendleton to see if he commits again. And we'll also keep an eye on Ozzie Smith to see if he's going to be shading to cover third and allow Pendleton to come all the way in or not. No, they're not moving. They're not looking bunt except for Clark.
Vance Law looks like he's looking for the ball he can go to the opposite field with. Now he's taking another good look here, and you just don't know what's happening. Ozzie Smith would be the man to key on to see what's going to happen.
Law, by the way, has sacrificed more times than any other Expo. Well, the Cardinals are not convinced at all. And he's swinging, and it's a little looper to center. Here comes McGee. Can't get it. Bounces over his head, backed up by Van Slyke, and the bases are loaded. Boy, you talk about an inning. Gullickson hits a chopper up along third. Raines gets a base hit because the pitcher gets in the way, and Law bloops a single to center. And boy, are the Expos in business. Bases loaded, nobody out.
That's the kind of thing that you expect the Cardinals to do with speed. That ball almost took the bad hop over everybody's head, but Van Slyke, hustling all the way, backs it up. Now you got the big gunners up there. Dawson, Brooks, and Wallet. Nobody out, and the bases loaded.
Andre Dawson, a fly ball to right field. He did not hit it hard. And we were talking about his left knee. And as you can see, he's really been in a struggle. He's hitting .247. So they got their big man up there with the bases loaded and nobody out. And he gets a hold of it. A high drive into deep left center. It is a grand slammer. And they can hear that one in Times Square.
No doubt that Dawson went up there saying, if I get a good ball to hit, I'm really going to take a good cut at it, and there was no doubt from the minute he touched it off. I think that knee buckled that time, Vin.
The only thing that buckled was John Tudor and the house of Tudor. And immediately the Cardinal bullpen will get busy, and the Dawson Marching and Chowder Society can take a look at Andre's grand slam. And there's the guy at the other end of it. So it is 5-0 Montreal and 7-1 New York. And a strike to Hubie Brooks, who had a pinch hit grand slam Thursday night against Pittsburgh. Brooks had a base hit and an RBI in the first inning. So with 94 runs batted in, Hubie Brooks having a great year. 1-1. Whoops, off speed, and you can see what happened to the hitter, losing control of the bat.
That bat really went flying out there. You really have to like this Hubie Brooks for his attitude. They moved him to a strange position. Everybody had everything to say about him and said, well, he's a third baseman playing shortstop like a third baseman. Don't know if he's going to do it. He kept smiling. And even before the game, he came up to me. He says, you know, I'm going to give you some great philosophy. In this game, you never know.
Oh, good, good.
Now, that's
that
profound.
Yeah.
You got to write that in stone.
Well, he's from Los Angeles.
You never know. You remember that. I said, hey, that's pretty good to remember going through life. You just never know.
You know, you're talking about Hubie being a converted third baseman. Vance Law is a third baseman, and yet their strength up the middle, as you look at Kepshire, they have two third basemen around the bag. Kepshire has kind of fallen in disfavor. You look at the Cardinal rotation, it's Tudor, Andujar, Danny Cox, and then Bob Forsch. And Kepshire suddenly shaky because of the way Todd Worrell is pitching. That's fouled away off to the right, out of play. Worrell is so impressive coming out of the bullpen.
And Kepshire is so shaky, they started Keogh in the ball game.
Imagine, and Kepshire was going to be one of the keys to the pennant drive, and it shows what happened. Boy, that's a shock for John Tudor. Not only to give up a home run, but it's a slam. And it is 5-0 Montreal in the third. And he lost the bat again. So you talk about bat control. Hubie has controlled it for the second time to Ozzie Smith.
Well, there's some hitters, and you can go way back. Dave Winfield does it as far as the Yankees. He's lost that bat. Tony Oliva used to do it. Going back to my days as a kid, Pepper Martin used to always lose that bat. They throw the bat and just not have that tight grip on it, and there's really nothing they can do.
Look at all the tape on his fingers. He's got some blisters on the left hand. That might have something to do with the bat control. And here's Tim Wallach. The last two home runs, by the way, that John Tudor has allowed, one was a grand slam to Bill Allman, the other a home run by Mike Schmidt.
You ought to use more stickum because the hitters like it, and Miss America liked it too in the swimsuit competition. Did you see that?
No, tell me about that.
She put it.
Don't tell me.
Yeah, so her suit wouldn't climb.
What? There's nothing sacred.
Nothing.
Boy, you really.
That's America, Miss America contest. That's Americana. And when I read that, I said, oh.
Stick 'em. 1-2 to count to Tim Wallach. We'll go to every length to bring you the complete story. Even full coverage of Miss America.
Full coverage of Miss America.
Film at 11. 1-2 to Wallach. 5-0 Montreal in the third. The Mets breezing 7-1 against Pittsburgh. So for the moment anyway, it looks like the Mets have a shot to cut it back to 1. The Mets, in the next to the last series of the year, play 3 games here. There's a hopper up the middle, so John Tudor being shaken to the foundation. In his pursuit for 20, he's having trouble getting out of the third inning. And the batter will be Andre Galarraga. Tudor 19
First baseman,
but
Andres
1-2 with Montreal, 3-2 lifetime. And he's gone at least 6 innings while giving up 3 or fewer runs in 24 of his starts. There's a fine young sports writer in Philadelphia, John Lowe of the Inquirer, and I know the world doesn't need a new statistic, but what it does, it could use a good new statistic and get rid of a lot of old ones that don't mean anything anymore. Ground ball wide to third to Pendle, and he'll go the short way to her. To first, not in time, and it's a bouncer up against the box seats, and Galarraga will hold it first. For instance, complete games don't mean anything anymore. Nothing. And game-winning RBI is the most nonsensical statistic ever invented. But John came up with one that can only apply to starting pitchers, but it really does make some sense. He calls them quality starts. It'll give you a better indication of a pitcher than almost anything. And the definition of a quality start will be 6 innings at least, and no more than 3 runs allowed, 3 or less in 6 innings. That keeps you in the game, and you know what kind of a pitcher you have. Who do you think would lead the league if there was such a stat as quality start? Right, Dwight Gooden. 30 of his 32 starts, he has pitched at least 6 innings, 3 or fewer runs. Chopper to Pendleton. There's the short way to her, and that's it. But what an inning. 4 runs for Montreal, and at the end of 2.5, Montreal 5, Cardinals nothing. First of all, the score is 5-0 in favor of Montreal. Secondly, John Tudor has made 50 pitches in the brief time he's been out there, and Andre Dawson has hit the 2nd Grand Slam of his career. But let's really get to where it's at.
Okay.
Miss America and Stickum. Now, let's go back. Start me again on that.
Well, she wanted her swimsuit not to climb, so she put the Stickum to make sure it wouldn't climb. So if I put the Stickum where Miss America put the Stickum, I couldn't get out of this seat. Now, you know where she put the Stickum?
You know what? It's amazing how you draw a picture. That's outstanding.
Slick, right?
You really are slick.
Smooth with words.
A journalist in pursuit.
Yeah.
Ever pursuit of the story.
Film at 11.
Vince Coleman will not be thinking about Miss America. And Willie McGee and Tommy Hurd. And we go to the bottom of the 3rd. 5-0 Montreal.
Now Gullickson's pitching strategy is to throw strikes. He's got himself a 5-0 lead. Obviously, he hasn't been able to control that curveball because he's thrown nothing but fastballs, but now he's got a little bit of a bulge. Although here comes Wallach in the 3rd base to try to take that bunt away from Coleman.
And Galarraga has shortened up at first. Coleman and McGee get so many infield hits that they, like coffee, they'll give the infield the jitters, and everybody's pulled up. In there, 0-1, off speed.
Good call, because he has not had that curveball there, and you can see that Butera behind the plate is going to keep searching for it until he gets it, and if he gets in the jam, he'll have 2 pitches to work with. You just can't say I got a 5-run lead, let's coast. That was a good call.
In the dirt, 1 ball and 1 strike. We were talking before about Vince Coleman stealing 100 bases. Maury Wills stole 104. Lou Brock stole 118. But Ricky Henderson has stolen 100 or more 3 times. 100, 108, and of course the record-breaking out-of-sight year when he stole 130. 1-1. Fastball, and it's lifted to left center. However, moving over is Tim Raines. Last night, Willie McGee made a great catch against Tim Raines. Let's take a look at it to show you. Talking about this great defensive Cardinal outfield. Worrell delivers. Raines really gets a hold of it, and look at McGee. Landed hard on the point of his hip. And when he bent over, he didn't get up for a while. But he finally did, and here he is.
Caught it right in the webbing, and did you see the reaction of Worrell? He thought it was a cinch hit.
McGee with an infield single in the 1st inning. He is also leading his closest competitor, Pedro Guerrero, by 40 points. It'll be interesting to see how much he dominates the league if and when he wins the batting title. When Musial won it in 1948, Stan won by 43 points. Rico Cardi in 1970 won by 41, and this kid could do that. Foul ball. 1-2 the count to Willie McGee, and Bill Gullickson trying to give the Cardinals a bad time. After 2.5 innings at Shea, the Pirates went out in order, 1-2-3, and it's Mets 7 and the Pirates 1. As Rick Rhoden hit the road early. 1-2. High up fly into shallow right. Coming up for it is Dawson. Cincinnati is a factor in the National League, so let's get a report from Houston.
Okay, Vince, top of the 4th in the Astrodome. Dave Parker gets the Reds going. A home run off Jeff Heathcock. It's number 29 for Parker, and it's now 3-1 Houston over 2nd place Cincinnati. Back to St. Louis and Vin and Joe now.
And certainly no knock on Jeff Heathcock or even Charlie Kerfeld, who will pitch tomorrow. But what's going to happen, and it should be kept in mind, the Dodgers will finish this weekend in San Francisco and go to Houston. And when they go to Houston, they'll get Mike Scott, who has won 18, and Bob Nepper, who has won 15. They would much rather see Jeff Heathcock and Charles Kerfeld.
You're always open to criticism if you don't pitch the same guys against the contenders. And if it doesn't work out that way, managers will say, well, that's just the way it worked out. But the criticism will be there.
Sure. Tommy Herd, a second baseman with 100 RBIs. And that means you have to go back into the record books. And he probably bangs it, and that's up the alley in left center. Chasing it is Webster, but Raines will get to it first, and Herd will stop at second. So that'll give us a chance to turn the pages of the history book for you. Second baseman who have knocked in 100 runs. The great Rogers Hornsby did it 5 times. Frankie Frisch did it twice. Joe Morgan did it. He had 111. Jackie Robinson had 100 RBIs playing second base. Billy Herman had 100, although he did play a few games at third that year. And to go way back, Bill Sweeney of the Boston Braves in 1912. Those are the second basemen to drive in 100 runs. Larry Bernard, Buck Rogers, and the rest of the Expos could care less. And here's Jack Clark. Clark flied to center in the first inning. Right. 0-1. Looking at Clark makes you think of Whitey Herzog having breakfast with the Cincinnati pitching coach, Jim Cott. That sounds like a disconnected thought, but it isn't. When Clark hurt his ribs and went out, Herzog was hurting as much as Clark, and he was having breakfast with Jim Cott. And he said, is Cedeno available? And Cott said, well, he's not playing. I'll find out. Herzog said, yeah, find out. So Cott went back and told Pete Rose that Herzog was interested in Cedeno. Fly ball to left field, that's all it is. Raines is there to handle it. Anyway, Bill Burgess was notified, and within 24 hours from breakfast, Clark was replaced by Cedeno. 3-0 Montreal. A date in history, the Dean brothers, September the 21st, 1934. Dizzy Dean pitched the first game against the Brooklyn Dodgers, pitched a 3-hitter. Paul Dean pitched the second game and pitched a no-hitter. And after the doubleheader, the great quote that has lingered down through the years, Dizzy said, if I'd have knowed he was going to pitch a no-hitter, I'd have tried to done the same thing in the first game.
And he'd have throwed one, too, old Diz. He'd have throwed it because he could far. Old Diz could far.
Far.
He could far. He could far. They weren't bringing it in those days. They were faring it.
That's a strike. 0-2. By the way, home run hitting Dwight Gooden came up for his second at-bat and lined out to third. And at the end of 3 innings, Mets 7. And the Pirates 1. Fouled away. 0-2. By the way, we talked about this date in history, September 21st, 1934. Fella threw out the first ball today, Hoyt Wilhelm, the Hall of Famer. And on September 20th, 1958, Hoyt pitched a no-hitter. Baltimore against the Yankees. 1-0.
What do you figure Gooden's biggest weakness is? He slows up between second and third on triples?
Boy, is he something else.
Is he unbelievable?
1-2.
I'd love to just sit in the conversation when he goes in to see Doubleday and Fred Wilpon. Hi, guys. Guess what I want?
The whole library. 2-2. With Sal Butera followed by Bill Gullickson and then Tim Raines. 5-0 Montreal. The Cardinals are squirming. The Mets are winning easily. Strike 3. Off speed. Got him looking. John Tudor picks up his 3rd strikeout. He is also due to bat 5th when the Cardinals hit in the bottom of the 4th inning. Bill Gullickson started that wild 3rd inning. He hit that little bouncer along third. Pendleton allowed it to roll. It bounced over his head for a base hit. Raines got a bunt single. Tudor got in the way, so Clark couldn't throw, couldn't do anything. Vance Law blooped a single to center to load him up. And then, of course, if you've been eaten to death by a moth 3 times, a lion finally comes up, and Dawson hit a grand slam home run. Fouled away, 0-2. Of course, check in another score. We were talking about the Yankees in Baltimore and how Hoyt Wilhelm pitched a no-hitter against the Yankees in 1958 on the 20th. The Yankees are leading. Milwaukee leading Toronto 1-0 in the third. Whether that's a case of too little or too late, the Yankees are trailing by 6.5. Kansas City and California tied. Cardinals leading the Mets by 2, but it looks like it's going to be 1. And the Dodgers leading Cincinnati by 4.5. They have a lot of racing. That does it for Gullickson, and boy, is John Tudor showing you how to change speeds. And with 2 out, Tim Raines coming up. Look at this.
You have to have great confidence when you start changing up on pitchers, and Gullickson, he swung about maybe 20 minutes too soon.
Left fielder
Tim Raines will be coming up as Gullickson goes back to think about it. Raines single to left, stole second, came around to score, had the bunt single and scored on Dawson's grand slam. So he's been the ideal leadoff man. On twice, scored twice. Raines has scored over 100 runs. He's quite a talent. Hitting .317. Strike. Montreal 5, Cardinals nothing in the top of the 4th inning. And the Mets are leading Pittsburgh 7-1 into 3.5 at Shea Stadium. 1-1. The Expos had a pretty good year, and you put quotes around pretty good. You know, they were actually in first place early in June. They went home and had a homestand and did the one thing they never expected to do. They fell flat on their faces. They lost 7 out of 9, scored a grand total of 11 runs, and the next thing you know, they were 9.5 games back.
There's that change again. Rogers talks about we had a great 130 games.
Yeah. Of course, they did it without their ace. Charlie Lee was out, and once they lost Joe Hesketh, who's a great young pitcher, he broke his leg. They were finished, really. But that's why he's optimistic. Fitzgerald with a new knee next year and a healthy Lee and Hesketh, he thinks his club might make a move. Strike 3 on the corner. Tudor strikes out the side. Is it a case of too little, too late? We'll find out. The end of 3.5, 5-0. Montreal. The Cardinals are trying to kick off, and Andy Van Slyke will tee it up. Fly to left in the 2nd inning. 5-0 Montreal. Remember, the Expos have plagued the Cardinals. They've beaten them 9 out of 13. And they've beaten them 5 out of 6 in Olympic Stadium in Montreal. And the 3 games left for the Cardinals on the road are in Montreal.
The Montreal club not afraid to overshift. I mean, they set up a defense. It is pretty definite. Way over in left center field is Raines. Remember, that's where Van Slyke hit the first time up. There you see a shot of it. Webster in right center.
1 ball, 1 strike. Ball 2, 2-1. And that's in there with a fastball on the count 2-2. Bill Gullickson trying to win his 14th. Makes his home in Kankakee, Illinois. 6'3", 220. 3-2. Gullickson working on Van Slyke, and Gullickson is an inspirational type. He discovered his own diabetic condition in spring training of 1980 and has donated considerable time and money for the cure. In fact, in 1984, he donated $20 per strikeout to aid diabetes research, both in Canada and the United States. Andy Van Slyke, 0 for 1, hitting .256.
You know, there are a lot of ball players doing a lot of good things. The drug trial in Pittsburgh has put such a cloud over baseball, but there are a lot of decent guys out there doing a lot of decent things.
Oh, sure. Here's ball 4 to Van Slyke. It's like those clowns in New York who booed the Canadian anthem during the Yankee-Toronto series. Now, that's not New York people. That's just a few clowns, and they make the headlines.
Well, never talk about the guy that puts the fire out. It's always the guy who starts.
Yep. So Gullickson having some trouble with his control. He's walked 3. Now he gets Templeton, followed by Porter, and then Smith. Terry flied to left in the second inning, and if they get down to 2 to spot, Whitey's thinking about a hitter, and he has his pen up again, Kurt Kepshire. There goes the runner, and the ball almost hit Pendleton. Instead, it's a wild pitch.
Now, you talk about strategy. What would dictate Van Slyke running on the first pitch? As we take a look at it, it almost gets Pendleton, and you can see it go off the glove of Butera, and Van Slyke had his head down. He was running.
I tell you what, if you looked at that film closely, he missed second base.
Well, he was looking at the batter.
He ran right over the bag.
Because he couldn't, he was trying to see what was happening because he thought the ball would be caught, and that was it.
Boy, would that have been a mess? Down 5-0, and you're stealing, and you actually run over the bag. Ground ball to first. Galarraga brings it to the bag. Watch now. Just keep your eye on second base and watch Andy Van Slyke. Here he comes. There's the bag. You're supposed to step on it. He didn't step on it.
Got it going back. 1 out of 2 is not bad. That's what Dick Stewart used to do. He'd miss the ball hit, but he'd catch it coming back from the outfielder, and he'd say 1 out of 2. That was it.
So Van Slyke is credited with a stolen base, takes third as Templeton grounds out. And now Darrell Porter trying to pick him up. He walked in the second inning.
That's what the Cardinals do better than any ball club. They manufacture runs. In fact, they manufacture rallies. Take a look at Van Slyke. He's on third base. Infield is back. They can pick up a run with the ground ball. And it was a walk, a stolen base, and a ground ball.
So Porter trying to pick him up and get the Cardinals in the game. And he does with a fly ball to Mitch Webster deep enough. Van Slyke tags, and he will come in.
Cardinals do that better than anybody in the league. You just look at your scorecard. If you're keeping score, really only one official time at bat. That was Pendleton's ground ball. A walk, stolen base, ground ball, and the fly ball may have a run.
Well, it doesn't come as any surprise to anybody, but we should give you the number. When Van Slyke stole, that means the Cardinals as a team have stolen 277 bases. They are the runningest team in over 70 years. Who was the runningest team? The 1913 Giants stole 296, so almost 20. They will probably pass that mark. The Gullickson surrenders a run. It is 5-1 Montreal. Ozzie walked in the second inning and having a big year, almost 30 points better than his lifetime career average. Fly ball back or first down the line. There's Andre Dawson across the line. So they manufacture the run, and it pays off, and it is 5-1 Montreal. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. It is 5-1 in favor of Montreal as we go to the fifth inning with Law, Dawson, and Brooks. In the top of the fourth for Pittsburgh, Brown walked. Gonzalez forced him. Khalifa struck out. Gooden's third strikeout. Gonzalez stole second, but Ortiz grounded out. The Pirates leave a man, so at the end of 4.5 innings, it is 7-1 in favor of the Mets. Van's Law grounded out and singled. He's 1 for 2. His single was just a fly ball that dropped in. But Tudor wound up giving up the grand slam, and it was a big 4-run inning. Two 2-0. Montreal, 5 runs, 7 hits. The Cardinals 1 run, 2 hits. On deck is the big guy, Andre Dawson. Out away.
You talk about the Cardinals' 2 hits, and the 2 hits did not figure in the run. And I'm running through my mind right now. Gene Mock calls when you score runs like that wee-wee ball, but this was a step below wee-wee ball. So I wish I could come up with a name. Pee-wee run or Pee-wee?
It wasn't much.
Pretty silent.
Line to right field. Van Slyke is there. 1 down. 1946 Cardinals had a big year, went into the World Series against the Boston Red Sox. Look at the size of the mitt, and look at the man holding it. Jolting Joe Garagiola.
Yes, sir. Household name at home.
Was that really that big a mitt?
I can't believe it as I look. Oh, it was. It was a big.
You didn't have a knuckleballer on the club, did you? I mean,
Murray Dixon. Oh, Murray Dixon had.
Did you use a special glove on you?
No.
Ground ball to the hole. Up with it is Templeton. So Pendleton takes care of Dawson. 2 down.
But everybody was a two-handed catcher in those days. You didn't have the one-handed catcher. Johnny Bench, Randy Hundley was the first guy. I've said that before, but Johnny Bench did it so well. Everybody tried to copy him. You couldn't catch a cold with one hand in that big mitt. You had to use 2 hands. 1946. Where has the time gone, man?
You look nice, Joey.
You lied.
That's
Annie.
what they say up on the hill here. You look nice, Joe. Whoa! Hey, Hubie, we're going to have to tape that thing to your hands. I really think it's his left hand. If you look at Hubie Brooks' left hand, he has some tape on almost every finger, and he just can't control the bat. See him wringing that hand? He must have a lot of blisters.
Why would people boo that? He feels worse about it than anybody. It's very frustrating for him to do that. He wants to hold on to it. He's done everything. He's going to the rosin. He's got to go to the stickum if there's any left. There it is. I can't picture Miss America doing that.
It's almost un-American.
It really is un-American to do that.
Hubie has a sore left hand. He keeps clenching and unclenching that hand. That's what's happening. He's losing control. 0-1. That's the 3rd time on 3 consecutive swings that he has lost a bat.
Get a good look at that tape now.
0-1. One ball, 1 strike. Hubie is single to right and struck out. 1 for 2. Look at those RBIs taken off, huh? Like a 747. Foul ball. He could wind up with more RBIs than Gary Carter.
You could see him really make a conscious effort to hold that bat. He was more worried about not letting that bat slip than swinging at that time, and that's really not good.
Fellow who had great reputation of being a bat thrower or bat loser was Tony Oliva, who was an American League batting champion. Well, he held on to it. Small consolation. And at the end of 4.5 innings, Montreal 5 and the Cardinals 1. And you look good, Joey. Pretty impressive numbers for the Cardinals, particularly, as we said, the stolen bases. The runningest team in 70 years in the National League. They're also leading the National League, but the length of the lead is very questionable. Montreal leading the Cardinals 5-1. The Mets are leading Pittsburgh 7-1 in the 5th inning. Here is Steve Braun leading all active players. He has 111 pinch hits. He's also the Cardinals' all-time pinch hitter, tied with Red Schoendienst. Strike. 1-1 to Steve. Hitting .224 against Bill Gullickson. Gullickson has allowed 2 hits, walked 3. High foul off third. Wallach trying to run it down. It's doubtful. He will run out of room. 1-2. Just to show you about the Cardinals being the runningest team in the National League over 70 years, look at that. The second best team, almost 120 bases behind them. And again, the 1913 Giants stole 296, and guys like Vince Coleman and McGee are not through running yet. And ironically, the first stolen base they got this year was by Joaquin Andujar, of all people. Still 1-2. The difference in the game, Montreal had a bunt, a squibber, a flare, and then a grand slam home run by Andre Dawson. And it's 5-1 Expos in the 5th inning. There's Andre standing in the shade of right field. Slow curveball, missed, 2-2.
You know, if you said that fast, it would sound like you were doing a review of a record. A bunt.
Oh, yeah.
Bunt, squibber, flare.
Surrounded it, and he stood on a bag. Yep, he kept his foot on. Right there was Bob Davidson watching Galarraga fall like a statue, but Hubie Brooks kind of went on a circuitous route to get that ball.
Watch the throw, though. He's off balance here. He throws it off his back foot, and it kind of sails, and Galarraga able to keep that foot on the bag close. But look at Bob Davidson in good position. And that was a good play on both ends.
Well, one away, and Vince Coleman, the batter. Houston leading Cincinnati 3-2 in the 6th inning. Vince Coleman fouled out in the 1st inning and flied to left in the 3rd. I'll always remember the quote Whitey Herzog made in spring training when he was sending Coleman out. He said, "I am probably sending the rookie of the year to the minor leagues." And he did, and he is. 1-0. 2-0.
It was good talking to Vince Coleman and talking about his 100th stolen base, that he said he got goosebumps and chills and everything else. It meant something to him. He really reacted to it.
Say, it's shocking to realize what 100 stolen base means. It means that Vince Coleman has stolen more bases than 5 entire National League teams. He's stolen more bases than Houston, San Diego, Atlanta, Pittsburgh, and San Francisco. That's just right.
Andre Dawson remembered him when they were both at the same college. He said, "I remember him as a kicker. That's all he ever did was kick." He said, "I didn't know he had that kind of speed."
The Washington Redskins did. They wanted him to run back punts, which is why he's playing baseball.
I don't blame you.
You got to be part kamikaze to run back punts in the NFL.
You want to get even with somebody, that's what you do. You're on a special team.
You're a special person.
That's right. And every week you go home, your face looks different.
3-2 to Vince. 1 out in the 5th. 5-1 Montreal. The Mets leading 7-1 in the 5th inning in New York. Pop foul and out of play. Gullickson, who once upon a time would strike out quite a few. He has struck out as many as 7 in a game this year, and he's done that twice. He's in the 5th inning with 1 out, no strikeouts. He has become basically a finesse pitcher. And he has struck out, go to the book, it seems to me he struck out 18 in a game. Yep. In 1980, he struck out 18 Cubs. But he's not that kind of a pitcher anymore. It's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. 3-2. Little hop fly. Law can't get it, but Dawson can. Just for the history book so you can see it, here is stolen base number 100. It was against the Phillies, and it wasn't even close.
Coming up on the slide when the tag is made.
Vince Coleman now has 101, but he is 0 for 3, and that's a key in the game to keep him off the base pads. Those are the men who have done it. Henderson 3 times, Brock, Wills, and Coleman. Here's McGee. One single, flied to right and popped it up. And it's Wallach in foul ground. And the Cardinals have their wings clipped in the 5th. At the end of 5, 5-1 Montreal. And now here's another edition of Baseball Remembered.
Top of the 6th inning in Houston. Eddie Milner for Cincinnati. He hits a home run. That narrows it to 3-2 Houston. Pete Rose then followed with a single. Career hit number 4,200. Let's go back to Vin Scully and Joe Garagiola in St. Louis.
All right, Landon, as we play teeter-board here in our ball game, Montreal 5, Cardinals 1, top of the 6th, and the Mets leading Pittsburgh 7-1 in the 5th. Dwight Gooden is pitching. He also hit a home run in that game. Tim Wallach, Andre Galarraga, and Mitch Webster coming up in the 6th. And Kurt Kepshire on the mound, and the first ball is hit to Van Slyke. And Andy has to handle it on a dead run.
I tell you, I thought he had misjudged that ball. Looked like he was not going to be able to catch up with it, but he had it all the way. They got great speed in the outfield. Right here, I think it's over his head, but stop to think that all three of them, Coleman, McGee, and Van Slyke, have played center field in their career. You can see that not many of them are going to get by him.
So Van Slyke puts the drive by Wallach away. Andre Galarraga coming up, the first baseman, struck out, hit into a force play against Tudor. Ball 1. Kurt Kepshire has fallen upon lean time. Look at that ERA. 29 starts and no complete. So they're trying to heal him in the bullpen. So John Tudor went 5 innings, allowed 5 runs, 7 hits, 6 strikeouts. And he was unlucky in the 3rd inning, and Montreal buried him. To repeat in the 3rd, Gullickson a squibber up along 3rd. Baines bunted for a base hit. Law a little pop fly single. And then Andre Dawson put the slug on him. Ground foul. You might remember Kurt Kepshire started last Saturday's game of the week against the Cubs and walked everybody in sight. Now he's relieving. Galarraga from Venezuela struck out, hit into a force play. The Expos are very high on him. They think he has a lot of power and a chance to be a good one at first base. And he lifts a drive to center, and McGee is on his horse, but he doesn't have to bother. That's in the seats. Talk about a lot of power. Andre Galarraga, who was signed by Montreal on a recommendation from Felipe Alou, was looking for his first Major League extra base hit, and did he get it?
And Vin, it looked like a curveball. Not even the heartbreaking curveball. Looked like Kepshire took something off. Watch and see if you can pick up the break. It is a curveball, and I mean, he really drills it. McGee thinks he's got to play and then realize, I no way I can get it, and he had to be way in the back row to get that one.
That's it, up in the empty seats. Whoa, what a monstrous shot by Galarraga. He almost hit it to Venezuela. And it is 6-1 Montreal. So his first extra base hit becomes his first Major League home run. 6-1 Expos. And Mitch Webster at the plate. Fly to left, hit into a force play. Once again, we remind our viewers we'll be selecting the NBC Light Beer from Miller Player of the Game at the conclusion of the game.
He hit that ball so easily.
Ooh. Well, you know, Galarraga, looking back at his credentials, in Double-A Southern League last year, the MVP. This year, he was the MVP Triple-A for Indianapolis in the American Association. So I guess he has some tools. Felipe Alou says he can play, then I would think he can play.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If he chops that home run into singles, he's got himself 102 hits. That was really tattooed.
Fouled away. You know, if we could just take a shot from center field, just to show you those empty seats, you realize how far away, up in there is where he hit it. Way up. And this is where the batter is. I mean, was it...
It's about an hour difference in time zone.
Ooh, 3-2. And there's ball 4 to Mitch Webster. So Kepshire gives up a home run and a walk, and Sal Butera will be the batter. Tell you one thing, if the Cardinals make it to the League Championship Series, Kepshire is suspect. With that kid in the bullpen, they are really singing his praises. Todd Worrell. So Kepshire, the struggle continues. And the batter now, Butera, grounded to third and struck out. base hit, and down the line. Over to get it is Vince Coleman. Holding at second is Webster. Nice play by Coleman, and the Wolves are getting on Kepshire.
And lost in that is the speed of Vince Coleman getting over to cut that ball off before it goes to the wall, and possibly a triple, at least one run scoring. I mean, he covers a lot of ground and gets that ball, and that's an easy play out of it and gets it back in to where you're able to stop Webster at second base.
The Kepshire with Bill Campbell throwing back of him in the bullpen. Boy, it's hard to keep your confidence if you are a pitcher and you fall upon times as lean as Kepshire has. And there's Campbell behind him.
They're looking bunt, and rightly so.
One out, and the pitcher Gullickson at the plate. 6-1 Montreal. They're trying to get a ton here. The bunt is down, and the play will be at first base. So the sacrifice works. Let's get an update on that Cincinnati-Houston game.
Well, Vince, still the top of the sixth. We showed you the Ed Milner homer for Cincinnati. Buddy Bell follows with a 2-run shot that Jose Cruz can't get. The Reds, who trailed 3-0, have now taken a 4-3 lead. Here come Pete Rose and the Reds back to St. Louis.
A rose by any other name would smell as sweet, except in Los Angeles and in the dressing room in San Francisco, where the Dodgers are getting ready to play the Giants. And if the Reds win that game in Houston, the Dodgers would have to win or the lead would be cut to 3.5. We have a moment with Bilecki now pitching for Larry Williams, who had taken over for Rodin. Danny Heap flied out to left. Howard Johnson blooped a double to left. Rafael Santana grounded out to the right side, second to first. Howard Johnson taking third. And that brought up Dwight Gooden. Now, Gooden had homered in his first at-bat, lined out to third in his second at-bat, and he promptly singled past third for his 4th RBI today. Gooden is 2 for 3, and the Mets are leading the hapless Pirates 8-1. We'll be back. It is 6-1 Expos, and they're looking for more.
Well, we have plenty of scouts here. Mel Didier of the Dodgers is here. Bill Clark of the Reds. Nick Kamzik of the Angels. Denny Menendez of Montreal. Al Lamacchia of Toronto. Jim Hughes of Toronto. Bob Harrison, Seattle. Fred McAllister. Cardinals, they're all checking, Vin, coming down the stretch. We got some races going.
And how? And they're checking Bill Campbell's performance to Tim Raines with first base open. They already know that Kurt Kepshire had another bad outing. Kepshire gave up a single, a home run, a walk, and Campbell now with 2 out. And let's see if they're going to put Raines aboard. They are. They gave him 1 pitch in the dirt. Tim wouldn't chase it, so now they'll walk him intentionally and load the bases. And the batter with the bases loaded will be Vance Law. 2 out. 6-1 Montreal in the 6th inning.
Here's your pet peeve, perfect situation. Bring a pitcher in from the bullpen, ask him to throw 4 bad ones, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, that puts a little extra heat. Vance Law has grounded to third, single to center, and flied to right.
Second baseman,
in other words,
Vance Law.
It's a question, should you let the pitcher who's coming out throw the 4 wide ones and then send him in? Or do you let this pitcher throw the 4 wide ones, get accustomed to the mound? Well, he better get accustomed to his place. The bases are loaded. Webster at third, Butera at second, Raines at first, and here's Vance Law. Big curveball. Boy, he hunches his shoulders, bends the elbow, kneecaps, and here comes that breaking ball.
He must be about 50 feet from home plate by the time he finishes up, too. He really comes off that mound after he throws it.
Watch him. He looks like a hook and ladder extension. Everything. Watch now. The shoulders are hunched. Head goes. Elbow. Curveball. Hit back a third. Pendleton on the bag, and that's it. 1 run, 2 hits, and 3 left. And at the end of 5.5, Montreal 6, Cardinals 1. Herr, Clark, and Van Slyke coming up. We are watching watching all 4 races as closely as possible, and sometimes it's hard to project the game of the week. For instance, last week we were talking about a possible Yankee-Baltimore game, but when Yankees hit the tubes, why, naturally, that was not the game to focus on. So as of this minute today, the game of the week next week will be a rematch. Only the Cardinals will be in Montreal, and the Mets will be at Three Rivers in Pittsburgh next Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. But again, we're trying to accommodate you to try and capture all the flavor and excitement of all 4 races. And if we have to change, we will.
Tom Hurd.
Tommy Hurd, Jack Clark, and Andy Van Slyke in that order. Bottom of the 6th inning. Bill Gullickson in Montreal leading 6-1. You might wonder about Gullickson. He has started 26 games and completed 4. But, on a big but, he does not have Jeff Reardon. Reardon is out and will not figure in this series at all. Tim Burke would be the #1 man in the bullpen, even though they pitched St. Clair last night. But Reardon with 35 saves, unable to play. He's in the dugout, in fact. He's not even down there. So it'll be up to Gullickson to go at least 7. And he's in the 6th. Herr has popped up and doubled, 1 for 2. Ground ball to the hole, base hit. That's only the 3rd hit for the Cardinals, and Herr has 2 of them. As you see, Cincinnati and Houston tied up at 4 in the 6th inning.
That looked like a pretty good pitch outside part to play. The fastball, he was able to pull it. You just wonder, and only if you're Butera can you really know if he's still got his real good fastball. If that was his good fastball, Herr should not have been able to pull it that well.
Well, here's a guy who could pull it out of Missouri. Jack Clark, fly to center, fly to left. Six-1 Montreal, 6th inning, and he bunts the off-speed pitch foul, and the count 0-1.
Not a bad play, Palin.
No, with that left side so deep, yeah.
So deep, if he gets the ball down, he gets on, and got guys that can knock him in, Van Slyke, Pendleton, so he just wants to get on and get some base runners. You need some bodies on those bases. The left side is way back. Brooks and Wallach almost shaking hands, as you can see. Look at how far back they are. Look how close they are to one another. Not a bad play at all.
And that's the way they played Clark each of his previous 2 at-bats, so it's not a case of later in the game Gullickson losing anything. They have pinched that hole on the left side all day with Clark. Tommy Herr held on by Galarraga. Line drive, base hit. Down the line, over to cut it off his Raines. Clark making a turn and will hold. An excellent play by Raines to put runners at 1st and 3rd. But only a Vince Coleman or a Tim Raines could have had the speed to hold that to a single. Let's get a report on the Houston Reds game.
Okay, Vin, bottom of the 6th in Houston. It's Glenn Davis for the Astros with a base hit. Here comes Jose Cruz. Here comes Eddie Milner's throw. It's not in time. They're knotted up 4-4, Reds and Astros. Now back to St. Louis to Vin Scully and Joe Garagiola.
All right, Len, the Cardinals trying to get off the ground now. Herr single to right and Clark single to left. Would have been a double except for Tim Raines. And now the batter is Andy Van Slyke. Gary Lucas and Bert Roberge begin to throw in the Montreal bullpen. Lucas a left-hander. Andy Van Slyke flied to left, walked, and scored the only Cardinal run up to here. Fake third, look at first.
Big play by Raines, because keeping Clark at first base, it keeps that double play in order, and that's what the good ball clubs have to do. Keep it in order on defense, stay away from it on offense.
It should be pointed out the Cardinals have hit into the fewest double plays in the league. 1 ball and no strike. In fact, they are second in turning the most double plays, and they're the best in avoiding them. Pretty good combination.
That it is, and certainly understandable with all these track team guys they have.
1 ball and no strikes. 2 on. There were 2 outs. Now he has first and third. Van Slyke, the hitter, and the count 2 balls and no strikes, and nobody out. Terry Pendleton on deck. Fouled away. That'll give us a chance to tell you in the top of the 6th inning. Sid Bream flied to left. Mike Brown popped out to second. Gonzalez flied to center. A 1-2-3 inning for Dwight Gooden. So at the end of 5.5 innings at Shea Stadium in New York, it's the Mets 8 and the Pirates 1. 2-1 to Andy Van Slyke. Appeared to be trying to force it to get a little something extra. And Lucas and Roberge continue to throw back of him. 3-1 the count to Andy Van Slyke. Clark held on by Galarraga at first. Down the line from third is Tommy Herr. 3-1. And he hit a high fastball down the left field corner for a base hit, and it will bounce over the wall. So Clark will have to go back to third. Stopping at second with a ground rule double is Van Slyke. It's Montreal 6, Cardinals 2. That ball was up, and Van Slyke really drilled it. Ground rule double. They lost the additional run for the moment. Clark would have scored had that ball stayed in play.
So it was in the judgment of the umpire, but in this particular case, immediately Van Slyke reacts to it because he wanted to hit that ball, and he knows he's got himself at least a double, maybe a triple if it hits the wall, but he was looking at the other RBI. Clark would have easily scored.
Remember, we were telling you about how Gullickson has written on his glove DOWN, keep the ball down. Well, that ball was up to Andy Van Slyke. He doubled the left, and Andy is GONE, gone. Gullickson. Left-hander Gary Lucas. He's a big drink of water, 6'5", 200-pounder, out of Riverside, California, lives in San Diego. He was with San Diego for 4 years and went to Montreal last year. So Lucas will pick up for Bill Gullickson. And he'll be pitching to Terry Pendleton and then Darrell Porter. With second and third, nobody out, a run in, and Montreal leading the Cardinals 6-2, but St. Louis alive. Foul back, 0-1. In the inning, Herr singled, Clark singled him to third, Van Slyke doubled Herr home, Clark to third. And here's Terry Pendleton. Slide to left, grounded to first. 6 runs, 9 hits for Montreal. 2 runs, 5 hits for the Cardinals. The Mets are breezing at Shea Stadium, 8-1 in the 6th inning. Line drive, base hit. That gets Clark home. Here comes Van Slyke home, and the Cardinals are alive and well. Montreal 6 and the Cardinals 4. Nobody out. 3 runs in here in the 6th.
Ruby Brooks gave it a real good effort, but no way to get that one. As Pendleton really drilled it, and we've got ourselves a ball game.
Buck Rogers knows he doesn't have his premier ace bullpen man, Jeff Reardon. He tries Lucas against Pendleton. Now he'll try him against Landrum. Tito hitting .292. So Landrum batting for Porter. Tito. Sounds like Yugoslavia. 4 home runs, 21 RBI. The veteran hitting for Darrell Porter. There's Jeff Reardon sitting Montreal dugout, he can't help. By next weekend at Olympic Stadium in Montreal, you would expect to see Reardon in the bullpen, but not this weekend. Suffered a severely pulled groin muscle. There's no way he can play. 1 ball and no strikes to Tito Landrum. Out away. On deck, Ozzie Smith. So Montreal got a run in the first. Andre Dawson hit a grand slam in the third. It was 5-0. Cardinals got 1 to make it 5-1. Montreal's Andre Galarraga homer to make it 6-1. But the Cardinals had come back for 3 with Terry Pendleton just singling home 2. Faber and Nieto are heating up in the Cardinal pen. Roberge in the Montreal pen. Ground ball, great stop by Wallach. Goes to Galarraga and got him. Oh, what a play at both ends.
A tremendous play at both ends, and you have to give Galarraga a lot of credit. That's the second play he's made. Look at Wallach first as he dives, comes up with the ball, knows he doesn't have a play at second base. Now watch Galarraga. Hey, that was pretty close at first base. I don't know.
And you can see Houston now has forged ahead 5-4 in the 7th inning, hosting Cincinnati in the Astrodome. By the way, watching Tim Wallach make that play, you know, for the 3rd straight year, he leads the National League third baseman in total chances. For the 2nd straight, he leads third baseman in assists. So he's all over the place down there. And here's Ozzie Smith with Pendleton at second base. Big chopper foul. 0-1. Wallach there to glove it. Coming from this side of the plate. 0-1. 6-4 Montreal. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Cardinal speed is of such that when Pendleton took a false break off second, he had Wallach breaking towards the bag.
1 ball and 1 strike. And a bluff. By the way, the Mets left 2 men on in the 6th inning, and at the end of 6, it is still Mets 8 and the Pirates 1. 1-1 to Ozzie Smith. Trying to hold him on at second. Vance Law goes to the bag. Pendleton has stolen 13 bases, but he's been caught 10 times. That's too many. Of success at all. However, he likes to run, and he is trying to make the infielders move and bird dog him and open it up for Ozzie.
Say, he's doing a good job, and not only with the infielders, but he's breaking the concentration of the pitcher.
Here in the bottom of the 6th inning, Kerr single, Clark single. Van Slyke doubled in 1, Pendleton doubled in 2. It's a 3-run 6. Montreal leading 6-4. And Ozzie Smith takes ball 3 with Pendleton now at second base. So Ozzie Smith represents the tying run at the plate. Montreal 6 runs, 9 hits. And the Cardinals 4 runs, 6 hits. But Montreal led thanks to a grand slam by Andre Dawson and a home run by Andre Galarraga. They led 6-1. And the Cardinals now starting to flap their wings here in the 6th. Tying runs are aboard with 1 out. Bill Campbell is due to come up. All eyes are on the St. Louis dugout here at Busch Stadium. And who will it be? Will it be Cedeno? That's the big question. Gary Lucas would like to know. And it will be Cedeno. the 20th century going out to the mound. Cesar Cedeno, we mentioned earlier, it was breakfast when Whitey Herzog asked Jim Cott about his availability. Cott said he'll find out and asked Pete Rose. Pete Rose asked Bill Burgess, and within 24 hours, Cedeno became a Cardinal. There are a lot of reasons why he became a Cardinal. Among other, a $600,000 contract. We'll be right back. Montreal leading the Cardinals 6-4, but the Cardinals have come alive with 3 in the 6th inning. The Mets are leading Pittsburgh 8-1, and the Pirates went out in order in the top of the 7th. Now the confrontation. Herzog has played his ace, Cesar Cedeno, with first and second and 1 out. Cedeno hitting for Campbell against Bert Roberge. A strike. Roberge, a 31-year-old right-hander out of Lewiston, Maine. And Cedeno with 5 home runs as a Cardinal. Imagine, he had 3 home runs in 220 at-bats for the Reds. And he's had 5 home runs, it seems like, in a couple of days for the Cardinals. 26 for 56 with 16 runs batted in since he came over. And he finds Pendleton at second, Smith at first, and a pickoff play in progress. Left-hander Jack O'Connor in the Montreal pen. It's been Gullickson, Lucas, and Roberge. Gullickson could still win. He's the pitcher of record. The tying runs belong to Lucas. And a big play by Tim Wallach, or Montreal would be really up to its hips in trouble. That's a strike. 0-2.
2 tough pitches, breaking balls. That one right on the outside corner.
Bert Roberge came up with Houston in 79, again in 80 and 82. Played briefly for the White Sox in 84. He was acquired in a deal for infielder Brian Little. Cedeno with that $600,000 contract, and it will come to an end when this season ends. So Cincinnati felt it would be a good time to unload him. The Cardinals felt the extra money was well worth it since they have a chance to win. 0-2 to Cedeno. Bluffing Pendleton back in the bag. Ozzie Smith at first. The only out was a great diving stop by Wallach, an even greater catch at the other end by Andre Galarraga to stay on the bag, to take a hit away from Tito Landrum. 0-2. Line drive into left field. Cedeno's done it again. Pendleton will score. It is 6-5 Montreal. Ozzie Smith at second.
He got a fastball right down the middle with 2 strikes. It looked like Butera wanted the ball inside. He just laid it right in there, and Cedeno jumped all over it.
That run is charged to Lucas. It is now Montreal 6 and the Cardinals 5. Ozzie Smith, the tying run at second, and Vince Coleman coming up with 1 out. Cedeno last night hit an 0-2 pitch for a triple, and hits an 0-2 pitch for a RBI single.
And with the speed they got coming up, chances for a double play, it's possible but not probable.
Boy, you're right there. Coleman has hit into 1 double play this year, and that was as a right-handed batter. Cedeno at first, Ozzie Smith at second, 1 out. 4-1.
In fact, the speed is forcing to shorten up the infield. They're in tight, and Hubie Brooks now talking to his second baseman, Vance Law. Speed, I'll tell you, will run you crazy. It's a catalyst. It never runs into a slump, and it's got you thinking all the time. It's like Ghostbusters.
There have been 5 hits and a walk in this 6th inning for the Cardinals. Way outside. Jack O'Connor continues to throw in the pen with Willie McGee on deck. You have McGee and her. No rest for the weary. Back-to-back switch hitters. Following Coleman, who switches. And as we said, he did it hitting right-hand. 2-0. In there. Jeff Lottie, the #1 guy along with Worrell in the Cardinal bullpen, and Lottie is out. It is 6-5 Montreal. The Cardinals were down 6-1. 2-1 to Vince Coleman. Gullickson, Lucas, and Roberge. The Cardinals with Tudor, Kepshire, and Campbell. The pitchers of record, at least for the moment, Tudor and Gullickson. He's shortened up, too. And down he goes anyway, trying to uppercut.
He had made a bad swing on a pitch before, and that's the one thing he does do is strike out. And he got the big out there by getting the strikeout. Now it's up to McGee. He chases a bad ball here. Previous pitch was a bad ball. Low inside, real bad.
Tell you what's interesting, that's the first strikeout for a Cardinal today. So Ozzie Smith at second, Cesar Cedeno at first. 6-5 Montreal with 2 out. And Willie McGee, the league's leading hitter, at the plate. McGee, an infield single, flied to right and fouled out. The Mets winning 8-1, but the Cardinals have come back. High fly ball into left center. Webster and Raines. It will be Webster. So with 5 hits, the Cardinals get 4 runs at the end of 6-5 Montreal. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. The Cardinals not only changed the battery, Nieto and Lottie, but Cesar Cedeno comes back out of the dugout and goes trotting to left field. So Vince Coleman will probably go out for Lottie, and Lottie will be in the leadoff spot. Then Nieto is in Porter's spot, and Cedeno stays in the game. 6 runs, 9 hits for Montreal. 5 runs, 7 hits for the Cardinals. In the 7th inning, it's Andre Dawson, Hubie Brooks, and Tim Wallach against Jeff Lottie. 0-1. Jeff Lottie is 3-2, but he's the big man. He has 17 saves. Andre Dawson, the big man for Montreal, had a grand slam in the 3rd inning. In the dirt, half swing for a strike. Dawson has flied to right, hit the grand slam, rolled to 3rd. So Lottie is asked now to keep the Expos quiet. Dawson, Brooks, and Wallach, the heart of the lineup, coming up. When the Cardinals bat in the 7th, remember they sent 9 men to the plate in the 6th. So Herr will start it off again. 1-2. 2-2. Like sliders that he's given Dawson. He didn't want to give him anywhere near the strike zone, really.
And trying to keep to the outside part of the plate. Lottie's one of those intense guys. When he finishes throwing, he walks right off that mound towards the batter, towards the catcher. He's going to walk a couple miles in the course of pitching.
Off the end of the bat, high number speared by Lottie, who fumbled but held on to it. He couldn't throw the ball to Clark because he didn't have a grip on the ball. He just kind of smothered it at his chest and brought it with him. 1 away.
Not too pretty, but very effective.
That's right.
He's got it here. He's not really sure he's got it. He kind of cradles it, and Dawson avoids the collision. Lottie gets there just in time.
The batter is Hubie Brooks, single to right and struck out twice, 1 for 3. Strike. At Shea Stadium in the bottom of the 7th, Howard Johnson singled but was picked off first. Rafael Santana singled up the middle. That brought up Dwight Gooden. He had a home run, line out, and single, and Gooden blooped a single. That sent Santana to 3rd as we see Brooks go out. So Gooden is 3 for 4 today with 4 RBIs, but Mookie Wilson lined out. So they're still in there, 8-1 New York in the 7th inning.
You think they're getting a place at Cooperstown ready?
Yeah, he doesn't steal bases, though.
That's right. Well, there'll be some scout put down. You can't let Gooden extend his arms or he'll hurt you.
Right. Here's Tim Wallach. Popped up, single, fly to right. 1 for 3. 1-0 the count. Andre Galarraga on deck. He homered in the 6th inning. Chopper to third. Penelon sets for the throw. Solani restores order and retires the side in order. And at the end of 6 1/2, Montreal 6, the Cardinals 5. Now here's another edition of 7th inning stretch. Well, it's quite an afternoon. The Cardinals coming back from the dead are trailing 6-5. The Mets have just added 2, so they're breezing over Pittsburgh 10-1. So there's a lot going on here and there.
A lot going on everywhere. This is a great time of the season because it's scoreboard baseball. You're watching this game, you're watching the other one. What if this happens? What if that happens? It's a great time.
In fact, the last time we just checked, Houston was leading Cincinnati 5-4 in the 7th inning, and the Dodgers haven't started to play yet in San Francisco. So stay with us. We'll cover as much as we can for as long as we can.
You can bet Lasorda is knowing what's going on.
You bet. Tommy Herr, who started things off in the 6th inning when the Cardinals scored 4 and sent 9 men to the plate. And Tommy Herr will start it off. Tommy popped up, doubled, and singled. He's 2 for 3. Strike. 6 runs, 9 hits for Montreal, 5 runs, 7 hits for the Cardinals. Herr, Clark, and Van Slyke. Let's see, did he get out of the way of it or not?
I think he did. He got hit with that one, Ben. Yep.
Tommy Herr, who hurt his wrist the other night on a tag. Let's watch this. In the dirt.
It gets him right on the knee. Yeah. Right on the knee. That's what kept him down for so long. If it hit him in the upper part of the leg, all right, but got him kind of in the knee.
So Tommy Herr not quite ready to continue. And he represents the tying run here in the 7th inning. 6-5 Montreal. Let's get a report and go to Shea Stadium in New York.
Here it is, Vin. Bottom of the 7th. Keith Hernandez ricochets it through the box. Dwight Gooden, who has 3 hits today, scores the 10th Met run. It's 10-1 Mets, now playing the top of the 8th inning. Back to St. Louis.
Well, it might be a day at the beach at Shea Stadium or a walk in the park, but it is anything but here. The Cardinals down by 1, have the tying run at first, nobody out, and Jack Clark the batter in the 7th inning. Clark flied to center, flied to left, and singled. And Herr, a little worse for wear, but okay at first base. Oh, Jack was trying to hit that thing up north.
And once again, Wallach and Brooks on that side of the infield really deep and playing Jack Clark to pull. They know he's going for just one thing. To hit that ball hard, pull it. Look at him.
One ball and 1 strike. Clark with 21 home runs, 85 runs batted in. And as you can see, Tommy Herr, an excellent base runner. Last night, with no one on, Montreal even tried a full shift on Clark. They sent Vance Law to the other side of second base, but not with a good runner at first. Roberge is the type of pitcher you figure Clark will pull. He doesn't throw hard. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. 6-5 Montreal, but they've spent almost all their money. They led 6-1 going into the 6th inning.
Herr's able to get a pretty good lead off first base, as you saw with that last picture we showed you. Now, he's almost on the artificial surface with both feet.
That's in there. 1-2 the count. Meanwhile, in the great indoors in Houston, that thing is tied up again. They've been seesawing all day. The Reds and the Astros 5-5 in the 8th inning. The Astros last led 5-4. One and two to Jack Clark. Full down the left field line, foul, scattering the boys in the Expo bullpen.
There was that hit a mistake. That was a high curve ball up in his eyes, and there was no way that Jack Clark was going to let that ball get by.
So as you see, the Yankees are winning. Toronto tied in a ho-hum situation over there, at least for now. 1-2 the count to Jack Clark. Clark followed by Van Slyke. 1-2. High foul off third and out of play.
Jack Clark, a very aggressive hitter. He's a hacker. He goes up there and knocks them in.
You know, that's one reason why Whitey Herzog didn't want him to take experimental batting practice to tell him whether he was ready or not. Because Whitey said, no, he'd go in the cage and tear himself to pieces. I'm just going to wait, and when he's ready, he's going to play. 2-2.
In fact, when Doc London said he was okay, Whitey said, hey, give him 3 more days, more extra time. I need him coming down the stretch.
And now, of course, he not only has Clark, he has Cedeno.
He's got a good 1-2 punch.
2-2 the count. Remember, Cedeno is hitting number 9 spot. There goes Herr, and it's foul back. So Tommy Herr on the way. 2 balls and 2 strikes to number 22, Jack Clark.
And that's why he's 29 for 32. He wasn't running the whole time, but he was sure he was going to make it there. Percentages with the lead he had certainly on his side. If Clark takes that pitch, they don't even make a play, I'll bet you.
Yep. Meanwhile, the Buck and the Bear, Buck Rogers and his pitching coach Larry Bernard, watching Bert Roberge. 2-2 the count to Clark. Tommy Herr on the feet. He's just about both feet on the AstroTurf. The left foot maybe an inch shy of the rug.
He's been edging off, and now they're paying attention. They took it for granted on the last pitch.
Well, he's reading Roberge very well so far, and Roberge perhaps is giving him kind of a commercial move to first, not showing him his really good move, if he has one.
But if nothing else, you've broken his concentration of it, just thinking that it's just him and Jack Clark.
Herr, the tying run at first, doesn't go. Check swing, they're going to look at first. No swing, says Bob Davidson, and the count 3-2.
Now you got a big decision. You be the umpire. What do you think?
Tell you, Jack Clark in checking, I think, felt a little pain in the left side of the rib cage. That half swing hurt Clark, and that could happen. In other words, a full swing, an unhindered swing, would cause less damage than the check. And when he checked, he backed out and kind of rubbed his side. 3-2. We'll see if Herr's going.
I say yes.
He figures to. There he goes, and there it goes. High drive to left, brains on the track. St. Louis. Take a curtain call by the crowd. Clark is yet to come out of the dugout, but they're asking him to come out, and he comes out. Tommy Herr, the tying run, watch his reaction as the ball clears the wall. The 22nd home run for Jack Clark, and it is 7-6 St. Louis. He might have had a pain in the side on the check swing, but he gave Roberge a head-to-toe pain with that home run. 7-6 St. Louis. And here's Andy Van Slyke. So the Mets leading 10-1, but the Cardinals have come back down 6-1 to lead 7-6. Ground ball foul outside of first, down to the Cardinal pen. Tudor, Kepshire, Campbell, and Lottie for St. Louis. Gullickson, Lucas, and Roberge. The pitchers of record now are Jeff Lottie and Bert Roberge. 2-1. That's a strike. 2-2. Van Slyke flied to left, walked, and doubled. And Bert Roberge is due to bat fourth when the Expos hit in the 8th inning. At Shea Stadium, Orsulak got a base hit, but Reynolds struck out. Johnny Ray went out. Sid Bream flied out. Goodness struck out 4, and at the end of 7.5, 10-1 Mets. High pop fly. Vance Law going out. Dawson coming, but Law says you'll take it, and does. Breaking that 5-5 tie, now taking an 8-5 lead against Cincinnati. It was 5-4 Houston, then 5-5, and the Astros have come right back again. Randy St. Clair is throwing in the Expo bullpen since Roberge is on the edge for a hitter. Terry Pendleton flied to left, grounded out, and then Pendleton singled with runners at second and third to drive in 2 in the 6th inning, and then scored a run in the 6th. So Montreal led 6-1, and the Cardinals got 4 in the 6th and 2 here in the 7th to take a 7-6 lead. High fly ball to center. Mitch Webster. That's the second out. And the batter will be Tom Nieto, the catcher.
A couple of things in this 7 runs that the Cardinals have made. Remember that run in the 4th inning they manufactured without a base hit, a walk, stolen base, ground ball, and a sacrifice fly, and then Cedeno coming off the bench.
Catcher Tom Nieto.
Shows you that depth. They needed the power from their big man, the number 4 hitter Clark. They got it. I tell you, it's a ball club that you just got to stay on top of constantly.
And the Cardinals coming back against a team that had been giving them a bad time. Remember, the Expos had beaten them 9 out of 13. But the Cardinals turned one around last night, and they're now trying to jerk one out from underneath Montreal today. 7-6 Cardinals in the 7th. The Expos really missing Jeff Reardon. Make no mistake about that. Without a man who has 35 saves and leading 6-1. They went to a bullpen that is just not a bullpen without him. There he is, the bearded one. And without him, they have blown the 6-1 lead. Foul ball. Nieto hitting .230. 34 RBIs, and he has done an excellent job, not only in catching while Darrell Porter was getting well, but in catching, period. Then in 90 games. When Montreal hits in the 8th, they have Galarraga, Webster, and Butera. Not exactly household names. However, Galarraga homered in the 6th inning. Houston added another and leads Cincinnati 9-5 in the 8th. Andres, the first baseman, he'll be leading off in the 8th inning. High fly ball into right center. Webster has a bead on it all the way. So the Cardinals, however, get 2 on the home run by Jack Clark with her aboard. And at the end of 7, Cardinals 7, Montreal 6. The veteran Mike Jorgensen, ironically, once played for the New York Mets in his career. Now playing first base for the Cardinals, taking over for Jack Clark, who might very well have hurt himself, oddly enough, on that check swing, only to hit a home run and then have to leave. And sure enough, He did hurt himself. Strike to Galarraga. So Jack Clark took a half swing, hurt himself. It was ball 3. Took a full swing and got the Cardinals out in front and had to leave the game. That would be a very big price to pay if they lost him again.
Yes, it would.
Shot up the middle, smothered by her. Got him.
There's the case of the artificial surface. The ball gets to you faster, but if you can get to it like her did, you do have time, especially with a big guy like Galarraga running. That ball really got out there. Nice play by her. Gets him by about 2 steps. He really hits his ball hard. Take a good look at it, and her diving stop. We've seen some good plays, man.
Oh, and how? It's a good ball game. The crowd loving it. The pitch to Webster, ball 1. Left-hander Ken Daly gets up in the Cardinal bullpen. Webster flied to left, hit into a force play, and walked. And popped it up. Back a third, foul ground. Pendleton and Ozzie Smith. Pendleton. And let's get a report. Cincinnati at Houston right now.
Vin, bottom of the 8th in the Astrodome, Tim Tolman batting just 107. Hits a big 3-run pinch hit homer. They can breathe a little easier in Los Angeles now. The Astros lead the Reds 9-5. 1 out in the top of the 9th for the Reds. All right, Vin and Joe.
For 16, Terry Frank.
And to add a footnote, Tim Tolman is from Southern California. Sal Butera giving way to Terry Francona. Francona will hit for the catcher. Good hitter. You might remember his dad if you're old enough, Tito Francona. He figures to swing. He has only walked 12 times this year, and that's a career high. Last year he walked 5 times and 3 intentional, and the second ball he hits to short. So you know he's not going to be around long, not for any lengthy at-bat. At the end of 7.5, Cardinals 7, Expos 6. Here's the way the schedule is left for the Cardinals, including tomorrow's game. They have 11 at home, 3 on the road. The 3 are at Olympic Stadium in Montreal, where they have lost 5 out of 6. The Mets have 10 on the road, including tomorrow only 4 at home. And for the Mets, they have, in the next to the last series of the year, they play 3 here in St. Louis, where the Mets have lost 5 out of 6. Ozzie Smith, Cesar Cedeno, and Lottie. Ground ball down to Vance Law to take care of Ozzie. 1 away.
Left fielder Cesar.
In the 8th inning at Shea Stadium, the Mets have scored again. Santana singled home Howard Johnson, who had tripled. The Mets are leading 11-1. Rusty Staub hit for Dwight Gooden and got a base hit, becoming the 10th man in Major League history to have 100 career pinch hits. Gooden will be replaced by left-hander Tom Gorman, so Gooden will take the last inning or 2 off. Cedeno, a fly ball to Raines. 2 down in the 8th inning.
Pitcher Jeff Lottie.
The Cardinals in October, they have 3 with the New York Mets. And then on the final weekend, they play the Cubs. Jeff Lottie hitting in the leadoff spot with all of the maneuverings, 0 for 8. What's more important now, who will be hitting as he drives it to Raines. Due up will be the pitcher spot Roberge, Raines, and Law. And if anybody gets on, Andre Dawson. So don't go away. At the end of 8, the Cardinals 7 and the Expos 6. Jeff Jeff Lottie trying to keep that record perfect as we go to the 9th inning. 7-6 St. Louis. Scott Thompson will bat for Bert Roberge, then Tim Raines and Vance Law. As if they needed it, Wally Backman singled with the bases loaded, and the Mets are now leading Pittsburgh 12-1 with 2 out in the 8th inning. Last night, Scott Thompson came off the bench and flied to center, 0 for 1 in the series. Ground ball to the right side to her. 1 away. The Major League Baseball Game of the Week has been brought to you by Ford, who invites you to drive the new Ford Escort. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Miller Beer. Miller made the American way since 1855. By Sharp Electronics Corporation. From Sharp Minds come Sharp Products. And by Honda All-Terrain Vehicles, inventors of the ATC 3-wheeler and 4-Trax 4-wheeler. With 1 out in the 9th inning, Tim Raines coming up. Cardinals leading 7-6. Ken Daly and Todd Worrell throwing in the Cardinal bullpen. Raines, 2 for 3, has scored twice, was walked intentionally and struck out. He also has a stolen base. Right. So Jeff Lottie trying to seal it up. He's the pitcher of record, trying to win his 4th. The loser would be Bert Roberge. 7-6 Cardinals, but even more important psychologically, they were down 6-1 and have pulled it out. Tudor, Kepshire, Campbell, and Lottie. Gullickson, Lucas, and Roberge. 1 ball, 1 strike. Ball 2. So the Mets are leading 12-1 in the 8th inning. The last we heard, Houston was leading 8-5 in the bottom of the 8th inning. The Cardinals are winning 7-6 in the 9th. Jack Clark, we understand, is in the clubhouse icing his rib. Ground ball, base hit. So they got a speed merchant out there, a rabbit representing the tying run, as Tim Raines comes up with his 3rd hit. And let's get another update. Here's Len Berman.
Thank you, Vin. Top of the 9th in Houston. Max Venable for the Reds. Ground ball. Bill Doran makes the play, so Houston beats the Reds 9-5. The Dodgers lead by 5 full games. The Dodgers are scoreless. Bottom of the 1st inning. They're playing in San Francisco. Back to St. Louis.
That Dodger game, a battle of left-handers, Jerry Royce and Mark Davis. All right, Raines, who has 1 stolen base, takes off, and the throw by Nieto not nearly in time. What a jump he got on Jeff Lottie, who never even looked over at him. And Raines said, "Thank you very much. See you later." Jeff was so intent working on Law that Raines had that base stolen no matter what Nieto tried to do. So 2 stolen bases for Tim Raines. Head down, digging all the way. So the tying run is at 2nd with 1 out. 1-1. Tim Raines with 62 stolen bases. So Raines trying to burn the Cardinals, who have 1 stolen base today. That was by Van Slyke in the 4th inning. Fouled away. 1-2. Vance Law grounded out and single, flied out, hit into a force play. Worrell, the right-hander, Daly, the left-hander, in the Cardinal pen. 1-2 to Vance Law. Big problem with Law, 9 home runs and 90 strikeouts. Fouled away. Raines trying to make the Cardinal infielders move around, and Andre Dawson waiting his turn on deck. But Raines wants Ozzie Smith to come after him, but Herr is playing Vance Law way off to the right. So Raines can afford to take some liberties, and time call. The only one who can even bluff at him is Ozzie, and he can only do it reluctantly with a right-hand hitter up. And Ozzie trying to figure out a way to harness Raines. 7-6 Cardinals. Ninth inning, 1 out. Borderline pitch. 2-2 the count. Bruce Fromming trying to update the scoreboard. Ball 3. And the presence of Andre Dawson looms larger and larger on the on-deck circle. Remember, he had the grand slam in the 3rd inning. He's 1 for 4. 3-2 to Vance Law. Tim Raines had to be anchored at second, and with the tying run in scoring position and 2 out, it's up to Andre Dawson, who had been in a horrendous slump until the 3rd inning today, when he hit the 2nd grand slam of his career against John Tudor. But he still has something like 4 hits for 41 at bats, though his average at .248. Now Mike Rourke, the pitching coach, is going out to the mound to talk to Lottie about pitching to Dawson. On deck is the big RBI man. That's Hubie Brooks. Hubie has been quiet as far as RBIs, struck out twice, lost his bat several times, but with 94 RBIs, he commands tremendous respect. So Rourke talking to Lottie. Two out, 9th inning. 7-6 Cardinals. The Mets are having a day in the park. They're leading 12-1, and the Pirates have just gone out in the 9th inning. So mercifully, that one is over. Mets 12, Pirates 1. And the Cardinal game still up in the air. Tim Raines, a tying run at second. 2 out. And Andre Dawson at the plate. And Raines going to third. And the throw to third. Pendleton isn't within 5 feet of the bag. So Raines steals third. And Pendleton didn't even go to the bag. He just wanted to make sure that that thing didn't wind up in left field. Pendleton not even in the picture. He was so far back of the bag. The throw by Nieto had him that far out of position. So the tying run is 90 feet away. And I'm just going to say, a little heat on Nieto. He can't allow one to get away now, or Raines is in there. So Raines with 3 stolen bases today to give him 63. 2-0 the count. Slider missed. Ball 3. If you're wondering about it, and it's a logical thought with a runner at third, Jeff Lottie has only 1 wild pitch this year. Had it been Kepshire, then it would be another story. Kurt has a half a dozen wild pitches. 3-0, and Dawson could be swinging. Takes a slider for a strike. 3-1. Montreal led 6-1. The Cardinals lead 7-6 with 2 out top of the 9th and a tying run at third. You can't cut it any thinner. 3-1. Little foul out of play. For all you folks who have been watching the Mets game, the Mets winning 12-1, ours has been in direct contrast. The Expos led 6-1 thanks to a grand slam by Andre Dawson and a home run by Andre Galarraga. However, the Cardinals fought back, and eventually Jack Clark hit a 2-run home run to give them a 7-6 lead. Now you have 2 out, 3-2 to Andre Dawson. Tim Raines a tying run at third in the 9th inning. 7-6 St. Louis. So you joined us just in time. Ball 4, and the big RBI guy from Montreal, Hubie Brooks, will be coming up. And coming out is Whitey Herzog. He has Todd Worrell, the right-hander, and he really loved Worrell. He was saying he's my new Lee Smith in the league, a big right-hander. Worrell throws hard fastballs and sliders. So Todd Worrell, last night, every pitch he made in relief was in the 90s, except for a slider that he threw at 85 miles an hour. So Lottie comes out with runners at first and third, 2 out, and Worrell will go head-to-head with Hubie Brooks. Don't go wandering off. We got a dandy. The Cardinals 7, the Expos 6, but Montreal far from dead. We'll be right back.
He's not being treated. He's back on. I just talked to him.
In the 9th inning, with runners at first and third, Andre Dawson at first. Tim Raines had singled, stole second and third, and Todd Worrell with a record of 2-0. He's been in 10 games and saved 2. Throws very hard. In 15 innings, he has struck out 13. And as we said, he can throw a slider somewhere above 85 miles an hour. However, he will have some tough competition in Hubie Brooks. Brooks got a base hit to drive in his 94th run in the first inning. He has struck out twice since, and as we pointed out, he has apparently blisters on the fingers of his left hand heavily taped on the fingers, and he has had a lot of trouble with his bat control. He's lost the bat 3 or 4 times today. And now he's up there first and third with 2 out. Joe, what's new about Jack Clark?
He's got ice on his side. That first swing he took, he felt a twinge. That half swing, he felt more of a twinge, and then he hit the ball and felt better, but he is being treated, Vin, but it looks like he's going to be all right. Doesn't appear to be serious.
He hit the home run, and Roberge got the twinge. All right, Raines fakes down the line at third. Fastball hit down the right field line, foul, and out of play, and the count 0-1. Just to cover all the bases, Raines at third, Dawson at first. Houston beat Cincinnati. The Mets defeated Pittsburgh. The Cardinals are leading 7-6, and the Dodgers failed to score in the first inning in San Francisco. 0-1. Foul ball, strike 2. Earlier, a few days ago, with this combination, runners at first and third, Dawson at first and Raines at third, Montreal pulled a double steal, and Raines stole home. None of those shenanigans right now, however. The count 0-2, and the crowd on its feet. They want him to punch out Brooks and end it. There goes Dawson, and the pitch is a ground ball to third. Penelon to first. The Cardinals win it. The Expos lead 2 in the 9th inning. Todd Worrell takes care of Hubie Brooks, and the Cardinal bullpen has 39 saves, much to the delight of Whitey Herzog. Bruce Sutter hasn't had as many opportunities. He has 27 saves. But the committee in the bullpen has 29 saves. This week's NBC Light Beer from Miller player of the game is Jack Clark, whose 2-run home run in the 7th inning gave the Cardinals the victory. Light Beer from Miller happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Jack Clark to help fight multiple sclerosis. For the Cardinals to remain 2 games in front, 7 runs, 8 hits, and no errors. For Montreal, 6 runs, 10 hits, and no errors. The losing pitcher is Bert Roberge, who served up the 7th inning home run to Jack Clark. The winning pitcher, Jeff Lottie. And quickly, let's get down to Joe and Whitey Herzog. Joe?
Whitey, a tough ball game. What was your feeling here in this 9th inning?
Well, actually, we came back, and when you come back, you certainly don't want to lose a ball game. We were down 6-1, of course, and they kept pecking away, and we've done that numerous times. And we had a game in New York where we were down 6-0, came back tied at 7-7, and lost it in the 9th inning. I didn't want that to happen today, but Todd Worrell's come up here right near the end of August, and he's really done a terrific job, as Jeff Lottie did again today.
You didn't give him much of instructions except throw the ball hard.
When I went out there, I said, let it fly, and then I had a play on in case they double steal. They got 2 strikes, and they were running. I'm certainly glad that Hubie Brooks hit the ball.
Would you have let him throw through on that particular double steal?
We were going to throw through and cut it off and see if we can get the play at home, but with 2 strikes, I had reservations about maybe not throwing through, go getting the hitter, but Joe, you can't let the leading run get on second base in the 9th inning. That's high school baseball.
Exactly. Whitey, good luck to you. Thank you very much.
Talking to you, Joe.
Okay, what a ball game, Vinny. We had a dandy.
Yeah, we sure did, Joe. As the Cardinals come from behind and win 7-6. Executive producer, Mike Weissman. Coordinating producer, Harry Coyle. The telecast of today's Game of the Week. Produced by George Finkel. Directed by Lenny Stucker. Pre-game produced by Les Dennis. Technical director, Neil Flagg. Grand Slam home run by Andre Dawson. Solo home run by Andre Galarraga. Not enough. A 2-run home run by Jack Clark gives the Cardinals a dramatic 7-6 victory. And despite the Mets winning 12-1 at Shea Stadium, Whitey and his gang are still leading by 2. Remember, of course, the Mets and Cardinals will meet to the next to the last series of the year here at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Next week, we'll have a rematch in different places. The Cardinals will be in Montreal, and the Mets will be at Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. But Joe Garagiola, Vin Scully, wishing you a pleasant, good afternoon.